our hero was out there fighting monsters for 20 long years in another world. He saved that entire place and scored a well-deserved award, getting to go back to Earth. Now that he's back as Jinshe, the former delivery guy, he just wanted to chill and enjoy all the modern tech, but he stumbled onto something that completely wrecked his plans. The struggle is still real, so hit like and comment, and let's see what went down. 20 years stuck in another world, and today's the day to beat the boss and save everyone. Out of nowhere, a giant fire explosion takes over the place. And right in the smoke, a creepy figure slowly shows up. The beast steps out and praises the hero for holding his ground, but the monster taunts him, saying our guy's party is already on their last legs. Keeping his guard up, the MC claps back that the creature is totally wrecked too. Furious at the nerve, the villain readies a heavy attack while screaming. He doesn't even blink, just grips his spear tight to go all in. With that, the two charge at each other in an insane clash. In the back, the guy's team struggles to hold up the magic barrier. The monster totally flips and warns it'll crush the hero if he doesn't give up. Then, the beast unleashes a brutal strike, yelling that it rules that world. Not backing down, the old man faces the overwhelming power head-on. The impact hits our MC dead-on as he tries to block it with his spear. Even so, he tightens his grip on the weapon, all set to strike back. Overflowing with energy, the guy announces the playtime is over. A surreal light starts taking over his entire body. And that's when everything changes. He unleashes 100% of his strength at once. That bright flash blinds everyone standing around. In the middle of the chaos, the MC turns on his secret skill, the Paradox Flame. The magic damage is so huge that it knocks him backwards. Quickly, he plants his feet on the ground so he won't fly off. Then, the attack swallows the monster and kicks up insane dust. Shocked, the creature looks at the result of the strike. Hyunshouk stares back with an awesome, badass attitude. Wasting no time, the villain charges with a heavy punch, but he dodges. Right after, the shark claws come ripping through the air. But our guy has quick reflexes and blocks it all with his spear shaft. The force of the hit still pushes him back, pulling a groan of pain. Finding it funny, the beast mocks him, saying that felt like a tickle. The kid clenches his fists and shoots the question back in a sarcastic tone. Then he points the burning blade right at the enemy's face and tells him straight up that it's enough to drop the beast. Suddenly, a creepy magic seal appears right in front of the boss. The march sinks into the ground and locks right under the monster. With that, an energy blast shoots up and traps the beast instantly. Stuck there, the beast admits it didn't expect to sweat this much against a human. The MC quickly ruins his mood, reminding him he doesn't belong in that place. Laughing it off, the beast warns that if he falls, the earth absorbs his body and he returns. But check out what happens. The creature freezes on the spot, in shock. Desperate, the beast notices it's fading away and the hero confirms the damage. He explains that the fire burns concepts and history, not oxygen, meaning the fuel for that fire is the beast's very existence. Seeing the end coming, the creature curses him, saying nobody will remember the hero. That's because his own team is just waiting for him to kick the bucket. Super chill, our MC says he already knew, leaving the villain speechless. The saint tries to deny it, but he throws in her face that her love was pure acting. For real. She's disgusted he's an outsider, and the flirting was just a dirty scheme. The idea was to keep him tame for when they'd stab him in the back at the end. Staring at the girl, he drops a, "Am I lying?" Saint. Cornered, she freezes and breaks into a cold sweat with no way to deny it. Hyunsuk turns his back and states that the other two are cut from the same cloth. He reveals the knight was paid by the cowardly emperor to wipe out the hero. As for the mage, a fan of weird tests, he just hated the MC because he opposed slavery. To top it off, the old man says he's known about this whole betrayal for 5 years. Fading little by little, the villain doesn't get why he didn't destroy the world. And the answer is simple. The guy just wanted his ticket back home. Shocked by this humble wish, the beast repeats the words in disbelief. Then we go back 20 years. On Earth, the MC was just a 30-year-old worker. But he fell into a chaotic place and, no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't return. The only way out was fighting, so it was 20 years of non-stop training. In a flashback scene, some guards try to stop him, but they get a jump scare. He shows a kid he saved and politely asks for passage to the shelter. But a guard warns that the brat can't be saved and isn't worth the medicine. Remembering it well, the real nightmare was something else, with screams echoing in the back. The medicine there was trash. They wanted to chop off a leg just for an infection. Since the healers were on the front lines, there was zero help for the wounded folks. Back to the rescue. They call for the hero, who still has a scowl on his face. Meanwhile, some religious folks question the miracle, but something way worse happens. The guys freak out saying the kid is possessed and want to do an exorcism on her. And to make it worse, they threaten the MC, who only feels sick of these heartless people. In the present, he realizes he finally cleansed that sick world. Completely beat up, he lets out a sigh of relief saying the mission is done. Soon after, the fake knight walks up laughing, warning that it's time to tie up loose ends. Staring at the human trash, the MC tells him to his face he's sick of living there. The traitor just curses, totally pissed off at his answer. He notices his own body stop moving, realizing the MC has become the real monster. Ignoring him, Yeonseo takes a deep breath, letting out a heavy sigh. Man, at this moment he yells at the sky, demanding his payment for the dirty work. Right away, a beam comes down from the clouds, leaving everyone with their mouths open. The bright light hits the ground with a surreal force and blinds everyone. Out of nowhere, a blonde goddess shows up, putting on an act to congratulate him. But the MC cuts straight to the chase, demanding his memory and soul stay intact. Besides that, he demands his one-way ticket back to Earth. The deity tries to stall, warning that he'd lose all the power he gained over there. Smiling with a smirk, the old man doesn't even flinch. He tells her to stop faking it, knowing the goddess just wants to get rid of him quickly. Cynically, she puts on a sad little face and asks if that's really what he wants. Without hesitating, he states he just wants his normal life back and that's it. Then he drops his spear for good, showing he doesn't want to fight anymore. The blonde accepts the deal, and he feels the relief of ditching that nightmare. Looking at his bruised hands, the reality of resting finally hits him. While his body turns into light, the goddess warns his soul is going to a new body. The hero finds the talk weird, but she just says it's a guy destined for the trash. Even so, he shrugged it off, saying as long as he's on Earth, he'll handle the rest. Suddenly, a light switch sound breaks the silence in the dark. The kid wakes up in bed and realizes it's the year 2025. Laughing, he curses the people from the other world, happy to never see them again. With that, he catches a glimpse of a mirror nearby. In surprise, he touches the glass and sees a young guy, realizing this is his new look. Staring at the mirror, it finally hits the kid that he's back on Earth. Smiling huge, he washes his face and hypes up the clean water, the real magic. He turns on the stove with one click, so relieved he doesn't have to chop wood anymore. Opening his takeout, he almost cries, saying how much he missed this. Still in disbelief, he stares at the food, making sure it's actually fried chicken. He grabs a piece with his mouth watering, dying to take that first bite. Right there at the table, the MC demolishes the meal with pure joy. And the stuff is so good he actually tears up, finally tasting real food again. Visibly moved, he admits he missed this life an insane amount. Leaning out the window, he thinks about how he can finally have peace. But the city changed, and he's shocked to see it's already 2025. Chansok figures any struggle here beats that other world. Enjoying the modern luxury, he goes to take a nice hot shower. To his joy, the water comes out steaming right away, no need to heat up a thing. Right after, the guy hypes up the cold breeze from the AC, turning on with one click. Now this is the dream life, far away from that gross place he left behind. He goes to play StarCraft to celebrate, but a weird beast jumps on the window. The jump scare is so bad he lets out a yell, totally caught off guard. Totally confused, a siren cuts off his game to warn all the residents. They announce a corrosion rift opened in the building, leaving our guy super lost. Then they tell everyone to run to the shelter, and he just gets even more confused. Switching his vibe, he gets serious, realizing this is not a joke. The furry monsters start piling up on the glass. Slowly, the window glass starts to give way. The MC takes one look at that and dips out right away. Rushing down the stairs, the creatures chase right behind him. Completely lost, he tries to figure out what kind of monsters these are. The chase doesn't stop, making him even more pissed at the state of the world. Getting closer and closer, the beast gain ground on the stairs. With no way out, the kid dives through a broken window. Behind the wall, he tries to catch his breath, thinking he lost the threat. But when he takes a peek, he bumps into a kid running down the hall. Chansok tells him to go to the shelter. But the boy asks where the monster went. Acting tough, the kid says he'll take down the creature and asks for his help. Then the hard truth hits. Earth's been a mess for 13 years, making our MC swear a lot. With no choice, he follows the kid, who's happily babbling about old rifts. He plays teacher and starts giving a whole lesson on the state of the world. Long story short, rifts are monster doors that randomly open and the MC just nods along. Inside, he's boiling with rage since he escaped one hell just to land in another. He hates the goddess so much he just lies to the kid saying he used to live in America. The kid thinks that's awesome and drops some YouTube gossip about the US president. Changing the subject, the boy asks his favorite hunter and yells out the name Lee San. Apparently she's from the Janabi Guild, a global top 10, and is on a mission right now. Intrigued, the hero wonders how normal people fight monsters just like the other world. And when the kid praises her giant sword, Chan Silk's face drops instantly, right in the middle of the boy's hype over the video. The MC forces him to shut up. Muttering a curse, he notices the threat getting closer, leaving the kid confused. The vibe gets heavy as he points to the monsters popping up at the end of the hall. Counting in his head, he spots 6 enemies, including one hiding in the shadows. Luckily, this new body is actually pretty fit, so dropping 6 at once is a breeze. But the real problem is the kid, who's now crying in fear and can't be left behind. Completely unarmed, he spots a blue light floating in the air. This weird aura makes our hero wonder if he finally found a little bit of mana. He's sure it's just like the other world. And a risky plan starts to form. Man, right then an energy blast shatters the mask of one of the beasts. The monster roars, proving the area's mana is all our guy needs to fight, shielding the kid behind him. He pulls that power from the air, proving he's still lethal. A cheeky smile slips out. He realizes the paradox flame still works, even if it's weak. And what do you know? A dark flame roasts a whole beast. The kid behind him gets hyped. Mind blown, the boy talks about unique skills, dropping the slang they use on Earth. Following internet logic, the kid runs up to check the kill, but gets scolded. Looking serious, the MC remembers the absolute worst part of this power. The burning carcass gets up, and he warns it only dies out when the target turns to ash. But suddenly, a red blur flies through the air, and a cheap sneak attack. The kid freaks out at the scene right in front of him. With a swift move, our MC grabs the monster's arm. Holding his ground, he tells the kid to stop watching this trash. Then, he just holds out his hand and asks for the metal bat the kid was using. The makeshift weapon changes hands and he spins it in the air with pure skill. Now it's hand-to-hand combat. He focuses straight on the threat. Tired of playing around, the ex-hero sets his stance for the final blow. Swinging the heavy bat, he charges in, smashing everything in his path. Not a single one is left. Every hit rips the beasts apart with brutal ease. Yoon-san is totally hooked, watching it like it's the greatest show of his life. Show's over, the MC lets out a heavy sigh, and the kid swears he's a secret hero. That gross metallic smell hits the air, frustrating the guy who just wanted peace. Super pissed, he realizes the hell he escaped is now the reality here too. Reaching the bunker, they find a crowd huddled up and shaking with fear. The heavy metal door slowly opens up, showing that it's safe inside. Once inside, he calls the boy a brat, and the kid gets totally offended by it. Just then, a frantic rich lady pops up screaming the kid's name in the crowd. She grabs the boy, muttering some thank yous while complaining he's too rebellious. Spotting the jewelry and designer clothes, he figures it out. They're a filthy rich family. And that's when things get serious. A massive thud makes the shelter's roof shake. A massive arm smashes right through the reinforced concrete like it's cardboard. The impact sends a bunch of debris flying everywhere, wrecking the safe haven. That freak of nature roars loud enough to deafen them, flashing machete-sized teeth. Pure panic takes over, and people trample over each other trying to run away. The little kid shakes and says that playtime is officially over and they need to run. Ignoring all the screaming, the MC thinks his retirement request was super simple. Touching his chest and thinking of home fills him with this bitter, endless frustration. Looks like fate thinks a life of peace in video games is just way too much luxury, calling him a brat again. The kid throws a fit and tells him to drop the nickname. Curious, the hero asks why a spoiled rich kid wants to fight instead of hiding. Without blinking, the kid gets serious with this scary amount of conviction. He explains that seeing the armored bunker turn to dust proved nowhere is safe. So his goal is simple: beat his fear and become the strongest guy to end it all. The kid yells out in anger that he'll save the world, totally catching our hero off guard. Chuckling quietly, the ex-hero agrees this brat has a real future in the business. But he keeps it real. Saving the world is another story. While the family runs away, the mom pulls the kid in a rush, but Yoon-san complains that the hero stayed behind. Ignoring his crying, she drags her son far away from the danger. Desperate, the little kid screams for the MC while being carried away. But his look completely changes when he hears what comes next. Chan Sok releases his aura and warns he'll do the job himself. The kid is in shock, repeating the idea of saving the world. Smiling, the guy warns that saving the world is for those with experience. He spent 20 years killing monsters. And right after coming back, he faced a rift. Luckily, his veteran baggage saved his skin and kept his promise to the boy. For real, he didn't do anything and now spends all day glued to the computer. Just then, the victory screen flashes on the monitor and startles him. Drinking an energy drink, he celebrates the win, thinking it's all too easy. He pulls the tab on the soda and takes a big gulp. He reflects that heroic promise to save Earth barely lasted at all. The heroic drive lost hard to games, good food, and the perks of the modern world. And to make it worse, hunters already do this job, so he's just gonna order a snack. Man. At this moment he notices he blew all the cash from the body's old owner. The problem is, with no money, he even tried to look for a normal job. But with whiffs popping up, companies are going broke and there are no jobs anywhere. Knowing he needs to eat, the guy notices the job market is a total mess. Then he stumbles on an ad recruiting new hunters on his phone. Chien-suk pulls up to the Hunter Association since killing beasts is his specialty. Inside, the waiting room is full of hyped applicants thinking they already passed. One guy even says the test nowadays is a breeze, you just need a cool power. Watching from afar, a veteran finds it funny and calls them all small fry. Right then, a black-haired hunter walks by, and the vibe in the place instantly changes. Someone in line even mentions this is the best rookie class in recent times. The shock hits when an applicant recognizes the woman, smoking a pipe. The badass is none other than number 10 in the global rankings. Amid the buzz, the crowd bets the Janabi Guild came to hunt for new talent, and their target seems to be Han Sang-ah, a genius rookie who controls electricity. Sin, his partner, even mocks the girl's skill, asking if she charges batteries. Ignoring the joke, the leader just drops a maybe about the girl's use in the field. Losing patience, the buddy reminds her that fighting in a rift isn't child's play. Another hunter agrees, saying a perfect score in theory doesn't save anyone in practice. After all, people used to say simulations take a while to catch the rhythm of the carnage. The chat gets cut off by the speaker, which finally announces the start of the fights. Smirking, Si-on hopes that some rookie there manages to surprise her. Right as the Baptin at the event announcer is blown away by the file of one applicant. He can't believe the guy there is a civilian with zero academy training. With the mic in hand, he says this is a first in the history of the association. It leaves them wondering what nerve this crazy guy has to step up, as our MC appears. Chan-sok enters the stage with a straight face, still finding his new name weird. The ref lays down the rules banning lethal weapons and asking them not to kill each other. Looking around, the ex-hero focuses on the mission to save this broken world again, but for that to work, he needs cash to live well and eat fried chicken. So he focuses on crushing everyone in the tournament, while both take their stances. The bell rings and the stands go crazy waiting for the clash to start. Wasting no time, the rival readies a fire spear, making fun of the MC's mana. The blonde kid warns it'll be an honor losing to him, just showing pure arrogance. Holding back a laugh, the fire kid thinks the fight is already in the bag. With that, the show-off charges forward, swearing he's the undefeated Spear King. He just stands perfectly still, only measuring the strike's ridiculous speed. The weapon's tip hits thin air, kicking up a cloud of dust across the arena. Totally lost, the blonde freezes, trying to process how he missed a standing target. He looks around desperately, thinking his opponent vanished into thin air. But Chan-sok pops up right behind him, praising his slowness with the weapon. With no hesitation, our guy lands a brutal punch straight into the rival's stomach. The hit connects so well that the kid loses his breath on the spot. Chaining the combo, the veteran throws a perfect hook right on the enemy's chin. Instantly, the rich kid's head snaps back from the brute force of the impact. Chan-sok fixes his stance, thinking he went easy so we wouldn't send him to the hospital. He sighs in disappointment, wondering if this is the famous level of a modern hunter. In the stands, the Janabi leader is intrigued by the crazy guy's raw power. One of her lackeys warns that the MC has almost no mana on his file. So, the team concludes that punch was pure luck from a scared beginner. It then shows the candy he was chewing, totally unbothered by the fight. But Se-un sees past it and figures the kid is saving his energy on purpose. Cracking his neck in the arena, the MC decides he needs to be more lethal to show off. The preppy kid on the ground is still stuttering, not accepting the beating he just took. Then the veteran preps for the kill, calmly warning he won't send him to the afterlife. That just leaves the poor guy more panicked, shaking in his boots with zero reaction. With one last clean tap, he knocks the enemy out and secures his first round win. The scouts in the top seats are mind-blown by how fast the knockout was. Si-un shoots daggers at the kid, spotting a potential that nobody else there noticed. Silently, the elite trio realizes they struck gold right in the middle of the mud. Smirking, the big boss decides she's gonna test that kid's true strength. As she stands up, she tells her partner she's gonna have a direct chat with the president. The routine continues in the ring, with our MC eating them alive without breaking a sweat. But his boredom just grows since none of the hunters there are even good for a warm-up. Dropping another wimp, he harshly judges the trash teaching level of this so-called academy. He takes a deep breath, hunting for at least one measly opponent who can last 5 minutes. And that's when it all changes. The prodigy rookie finally steps in and grabs attention. The extras go crazy over the girl's beauty, thinking the real show has just begun. The crowd hypes up as the announcer calls the finals between Sangha and the mystery rookie. Sizing up his opponent from head to toe, Chansuk notices she's built different. That girl carries the biggest mana pool in the entire gym by a landslide. Senna gives a speech about how his luck ran out, pulling a yawn out of the MC. Seeing absolutely no magic aura, the girl swears up and down he has zero power. Soon she summons her energy, warning she won't go easy on the rookie. The guy thanks her ironically, since he's only not using his power to spare her life. Pulling in a deep breath, the girl gets into a pure attack stance. The ref blows the whistle and the girl was already set, prepping a powerful strike. The entire sheath of her sword overloads with static, ready to blow up. Even the veteran raises an eyebrow at the absurd burst of speed. In the blink of an eye, she draws the blade like firing an electric cannon. However, the magic cuts the air and hits nothing, leaving the girl paralyzed in shock. The truth is, our hero was already high up in the air, dodging the deadly technique. Turning her neck in frustration, the rookie tries to grasp how he dodged a lightning bolt. Chansuk breaks down the move from above, figuring out the trick to magnetize the sheath. Landing smoothly, he praises the girl's technique but warns she missed the main thing. The girl doesn't get it, so he keeps it real. She focused on speed and forgot the timing. For real, the dumb mistake was making a visible magnetic trail in the air to fire her weapon. Smiling, the kid mocks that nobody would fall for a move with the target so obvious. But the girl boils with rage and tells him to tone it down. Furious, she charges all in, throwing a shock-filled slash without using her trick. He dodges easily and calls her crazy, since the last move was way faster. With that, Sanha totally loses it and unleashes a crazy shockwave. The brawl gets wild, with her slashing and wrecking the entire gym floor. But the veteran dodges every cut, realizing his opponent is pushing herself too hard. Reading her moves, he notices her body will break down if she doesn't stop soon. In the blink of an eye, the guide pops up right in front of her and says playtime is over. Super cold, he tells her to raise her left hand if the pain is too much. And with no mercy, he lands a clean hit to her stomach that makes the girl shake. That scream of pain tears through the arena instantly. Our MC clenches his fist ready to throw another attack. A combo of punches lands on his opponent, who can't even defend herself. The MC readies one last punch to end the fight. Then, a heavy punch hits the rookie right in the ribs. The girl passes out on her feet, losing her senses and bleeding badly from her nose. With no strength, she collapses on the concrete, completely knocked out. Up top, the crowd can't believe the class ace got totally wrecked by a nobody. Looking at the poor girl, the hero figures she focused on magic and forgot physical training. But check out what happens. He gets a jump scare seeing something move on the ground. Sanha's left hand slowly goes up, asking to tap out. With the clear signal, the ref ends the fight right there to avoid the worst. The kid finds it funny. He didn't even think she'd follow his tip and raise her hand. With that, the medical team jumps in and clears everyone out. Out of nowhere, the announcer chokes up, getting some breaking news in his earpiece. Immediately, he asks for silence and warns that the whole schedule has changed. They ask the champ to wait in the arena a bit, leaving the guy totally confused. And that's when everything changes. There's gonna be a bonus fight against a pro hunter. The boss has authorized it all, and Seon's partners know it was her doing. Seeing the crowd go crazy, the ex-hero realizes the challenge will be massive. To him, these surprise tests are the same no matter what world you go to. A massive sword drops out of nowhere and sticks in the ground, calling the kid's name. Right after, the voice apologizes for the invasion, saying she needed to test him. Pulling the heavy sword, Lee Se-eun from the Janabi Guild finally introduces herself. With a big smile, the badass says the tournament was easy and calls him out for a 1v1. Chansuk weighs the offer, knowing the woman is top 10 in the entire world. Just sizing up her stance, he realizes things are serious and the fight will be ugly. Despite the risk, a cheeky little smile escapes the kid's face, and he accepts the duel for right now, leaving the announcer shocked at the rush. The veteran notices his hype, and the boy admits to himself he barely broke a sweat there. While they take the rookie on a stretcher, he decides to use the chance to boost his name. Grabbing a spear left on the ground, he realizes the top 10 is the perfect stepping stone to fame. Firm in his stance, the MC wonders if it's finally time to show what he can really do. Man, right then the brawl starts and the clash is insane. The crowd goes wild, Even the announcer stutters on the mic, sweating cold from the weight of every impact in the arena. This woman doesn't mess around and spins her whole body into a crushing strike. And would you believe the kid blocks the giant sword with just his spear shaft, laughing it off? Taking the absurd impact, he doesn't get how she hides so much strength in that body. The sound of clashing steel echoes super loud, with both fighting for space to the limit. With pure brute force, the veteran throws the kid like a rag doll through the air. Over on the other side, Senjin already notices her arms felt heavy since the start. But Shan Sok is frustrated. He sees the openings, but his current body just won't obey. Panting, the badass praises that he lasted half an hour when she thought he'd last 5 minutes. Sinking her boot into the broken floor, she warns that the warm-up is totally over. With her weapon up, she swears she'll end it fast to spare his suffering. The kid grits his teeth, knowing his mana hits 0 and there's nothing in the air to pull. Tired and panting, he steadies his stance, refusing the idea of throwing in the towel. Seeing his opponent jump for the lethal strike, he accepts he'll have to use his dirty trick. Without hesitating, he summons his most dangerous skill, the famous Paradox Flame. The area's aura suddenly changes, making the top 10 feel anxious up in the air. Out of nowhere, an energy blast throws the kid backwards, saving him from the blade. He lands safely in a corner, while the hunter smashes the empty arena floor. Laughing nervously, the woman tries to figure out how he dodged an impossible strike. Covered in a weird dark fire, he stares at the veteran, without blinking. Right there, he repeats the name of the Paradox Flame, giving off a heavy energy. It's his ace in the hole from the other world, the skill that kept him alive for 20 years. Pointing at his own torn clothes, he proves that the flame doesn't burn anything physical. The fire's target is abstract concepts, except now he can't erase identities. But there's one thing he can burn, and he charges full speed at his opponent. Totally surprised, Siern's eyes widen, seeing the rookie's speed double out of nowhere. In the air, the ex-hero drops the truth. The fire's fuel right now is his own fatigue. The Janabi boss can't believe the guy is good as new in the snap of a finger. And the war restarts even more violent, raining sparks everywhere with every steel clash. Trading blows, the woman notices the arena's mana level is fluctuating wildly. Qianso quickly explains the trick. Burning concepts with this fire creates pure mana. Basically, the magic consumes his fatigue to return energy in an endless loop. Dashing forward, he warns it's an infinite health and stamina glitch. Eyes-eyed, the kid adds that his real absolute specialty is hitting and taking a beating. The two clash again, crumbling what's left of the floor. Looking serious, the top 10 asks if he's gonna keep up this tiring joke until tomorrow. According to her, the crazy guy is like a tick grabbing her leg that won't let go for anything. Laughing, he confirms his thing is a war of attrition, and he's got breath for way more. Full of swagger, the rookie flirts, asking if she's into persisting dies. With a forced smile, she shoots right back that she absolutely hates annoying people like that. But every fire makes ashes, and the Paradox Flame also leaves a limit on the body. After an impressive 4 hours and 17 minutes, the fuel runs out. Sprawled on the ground, the hero begs for mercy, whining, and Sayun takes the win. Without delay, one of the hunter's suited partners brings her a lollipop. Up top, the rest of the team freaks out with envy over the candy during work hours. Satisfied, the badass hands the kid the lollipop as a prize, along with a card. He takes the little paper, reading the Janabi partner title, barely understanding a thing. Winking at him, she asks him to call later so they can negotiate a proper contract. Over the speaker, they call Chan Sok to grab the first place prize for the event. Chilling in the corner and eating his lollipop, the ex-hero finally breathes in peace. Messing with his new license phone, he's amazed by the little shops and app features. But the peace is short-lived because someone calls his name out of nowhere in the hall. A buff giant pops up there, saying the MC has way more presence in person. Sizing up the guy's 2-meter height, he asks who he is and gets a business card. The paper says Tybeck Guild, and the big guy already invites him to the team. Yoon swears under his wing. The kid will fly high, and you can tell the guy is serious. But the memory of Sein asking for that call flashes in his mind. So the kid remembers their setup and decides to stall to think it over. But the giant bursts out laughing, warning he doesn't need to answer right now. Putting a heavy hand on the kid's shoulder, the veteran drops a threat. With that creepy smile, he gets close and tells the rookie to think carefully. After the warning, the big guy turns around and dips, leaving him planted there. He quickly makes a disgusted face and swears he'll stay far away from this Tyvek. Hours later, Sein answers the call and he right away asks where they're meeting. The hunter says she's at a cafe called The Hut, right in the association's building. Finding the foreign name weird, he follows the route and spots the wooden sign. Right at the door, a super-hiked waitress welcomes the guy with the biggest smile. And June was already chilling at the table, praises his timing and tells him to sit. The rookie mentions the place's name and the veteran notices his weird look. Keeping it straight, he says a weird giant tried to poach him for another guild. She figures it out right away, warning that nobody messes with that guy's offer. Giving that cheeky smile, the kid pokes fun, asking if she chickened out too. But, Shika, what happens? The badass warns she doesn't want to recruit him at all. Her idea is for him to work as a solo freelancer, leaving the ex-hero confused by it. She then explains Tybeck would just toss him at the back of the line as a mere junior, totally lost. He asks about the ranks and she reminds him he's not from the bottom. It all works like a pyramid, split into junior at the base, senior, and partner up top. Cian points out the base is just grunts getting a fixed wage from the boss. As a partner, she owns guild shares and profits too, kind of like a business owner. The lackeys there say it sounds like a law firm, and she confirms the inspiration. In practice, the guy doesn't need to eat dirt down there to become a boss later. Catching on, the kid gets that if he shines alone, the market will come after him. The veteran happily agrees and pushes another candy, leaving him scratching his head. Keeping it real, he mentions he has no connections in the market to score VIP missions. Giving a cheeky smile, she says she'll help out with that bridge totally for free. He takes the bait, kinda suspicious, asking what's the catch for all this kindness. The idea is to lock the guy in a debt of gratitude so he never forgets Janabi. With that, she slides an envelope on the table, making it clear it's his choice to take it. Opening the paper, the MC finds out the mission is wiping out a rotten zone on an island. He thinks it's just killing a boss, but the job is hunting new rifts all over the map. The contract pays 5 million now and 15 at the end with the mission in a month. Pissed off, the ex-hero crumbles the paper, calling that amount a joke for the risk. With that mocking smile, she warns that if he gets famous, the money will pour in. Looking the kid in the eyes, she puts the ball in his court and asks for his choice. The rookie freezes in a heavy silence, calculating the risks in his head. Far away, inside a fancy car, her team questions if the kid is really the guy. She recaps that unarmed show at the tournament, and a lackey thinks the feat is cool. But another partner disagrees, noting the boss went way too easy opening her guard. Boiling with rage, the boss reminds them the crazy guy held his own against a veteran. Lost in thought, she admits that matching her strength for so long is just unreal. Long story short, she swears the kid is a monster. Then the scene jumps to the island. Reaching the meeting spot, the team keeps pressing on the fact that he's just a kid, all because of a dumb little rule that required veteran hunters on the file. The guys question if his little hands will be useful or just dead weight for the team. Gripping her sword tight, the badass tells everyone to chill, cause it's all under control. The master play was pairing him with someone reliable, shutting out anyone who doubted. Curious, the leader asks where the rookie will end up, and she gives a tense smile. She states that if the crazy guy reaches the elite tier, and his shadow pops up there, he would simply crush their own boss in a one-on-one fight without blinking. Rewinding 30 days, a delivery guy struggles to drop a huge package at the door. Exhausted, the guy curses the package's weight, trying to guess what that heavy thing is. Waiting for the door to open, he checks to see what his next delivery of the day is. Soon the knob turns, and the kid says thanks, grabbing his long-awaited toy. Looking at the crate laid on the floor, his jaw drops at the size of the thing. No stalling. His hand pops the lock on the first latch, giving off a loud click. Pulling the other metal lock, the lid flies up, revealing the lethal contents inside. The guy's eyes shine like a kid opening the package for the most badass weapon. Holding the new weapon, he tosses its weight up and states that playtime is set. Right there is a flask of elixir, a little pure mana juice for emergencies. In theory, people store this energy like a chest battery, sucking it from the air. But our guy's magic system is totally bootlegged and works a whole different way. Basically, he sucks the area's mana straight into the strike, gaining infinite ammo. As a bonus, this engine kick expands the guy's veins, making the magic way more badass. The hassle is his pipes are rusty, so stocking up on some of this potion will save him. Staring at his reflection, he guarantees 1 month of magic workouts will do the trick. Jumping to the present, the island's port turns into an anthill of focused hunters. There's a giant line forming on the sand, with the tense crowd waiting for orders. When it's the kid's turn, he just shows his phone code for the guard to scan right there. The guard checks the data and sends the hero straight to the Squad 8 tent. Scribbled on a piece of wood, the number gathers the reject team by the water's edge. Reaching the spot, the veteran hears a grown man whining about being sleepy and cold. Then a really high voice starts a chat, making him turn his head a bit startled. Look who it is, the lightning girl, who praises his cut and tries explaining her scars. Sang-ah tries to push some squad friendship talk, but he cuts her off super dry. She plays embarrassed, acting tough, saying her shoulders still hurt after the beating she took. Totally missing the joke, he says injuries are serious, leaving the poor girl dead, mad. Luckily, the colonel on stage grabs a megaphone yelling the plan in everyone's ear. Since the reject squad is all here, the crazy guy pulls out the mission map to explain. The suit mentions there are green rookies around, making the MC take the hint. During the little class, the officer lists the whole classes and hypes up Alpha Rift. This damn Alpha is stuck in a church and the message is clear: do not go near it. So the squad's hustle is slicing through alleys to bust open the smaller rifts. In the back of the room, some fools complain that this mission is way too risky. Finishing the ride, the boat docks at the creepy pier of the abandoned island. The ex-hero feels the weird aura emanating from that place. He and the shotgirl get off the boat along with the rest of the group. The officer blows his whistle, getting everyone's attention, warning them that if any crap happens, the coastal base is on radar tracking everyone's heartbeats. Saluting the big boss wishes good hunting to this team of absolute butchers. A veteran takes the leader role and makes up a whole survival plan. The rest of the group scratches their heads, finding the guy's tactic way easier. Tired of the chat, the rookie cuts in, opening the map and showing the temple spot. One of the vets steps up to the kid, calling him an idiot and questioning the temple idea. Super chill, he explains the Mountain Dew covers the whole area and even works as a base, but the guys throw a fit, saying they aren't going to war to need a fort. The former hero just pities so much ignorance coming from this group. Then, someone suggests they split the group to explore the area. The swordswoman herself and another hunter jump from the trees to join the kid. And so the team splits, with the three heading to the temple and the vets bailing. He already expected Sangha to tag along, but notices the newbie's mana is way stronger. Curious, he asks why this Kim Min-jae decided to follow the duo. Kim says he was worried about the two newbies, which actually earns a drop of respect. But the piece ends fast. The hero's instincts go off, warning of danger. Without thinking twice, he stops in his tracks and tells everyone to freeze right there. Spooked, Kim doesn't get the sudden stop and asks for an explanation. Making a shushing sign, Shansake points quietly to the other side of the trail. The vet peeks from behind the rock and turns white as a sheet. Man, there's an army of weird goblin-like monsters blocking the way. Shaking in his boots, Kim warns there are about 50 of them and the need to fall back. He ignores the panic and asks about the guy's magic, who freaks out at the idea of fighting. But the kid pushes back, reminding him that hunters are there exactly to kick some ass. Gulping hard, Kim confesses his specialty is shooting fireballs. Perfect. Chansok tells him to prep the attack and wait for the green light. The poor guy looks at the swordswoman for help, not believing this suicide mission. To him, it's stupid to clash with 50 enemies right on the first day. The idea was to radio for backup, but the hero shuts it down, saying it'll take too long. That's cause the rest of the team is patrolling the coast and would take forever to arrive. Plus, if the horde hears the call and spreads out, the whole island is at huge risk. With nowhere to run, Kim accepts that the kid's logic is flawless, and there's still the chance the vets might bail and ignore the cry for help. Bottom line, the MC calls it that the only way out alive is an ambush. The plan is simple. The shooter clears the middle and he holds the flank. It becomes clear to Kim that this crazy kid is a true war commander. Down there, the horde stays totally still, completely blind to what's coming. At the hero's shout, the ally jumps in front, already prepping his magic. Instantly, he launches a fire meteor right in the center of the mob, causing absolute chaos. All hell breaks loose and the monsters scream in pain, turning to ash on the spot. Panting, Kim warns that the move has a cooldown, but the kid tells him to relax. Focusing his energy, the ally nods that he got the picture. For him, the battlefield demands cold and calculating efficiency, meaning everyone does their part perfectly and nobody dies today. With that in mind, he flies straight at the monsters that didn't turn to charcoal. One of the beasts already jumps with its claws out, swearing to kill the kid, but the MC guarantees he'll hold the line until the ally preps the next shot. Knowing his own limits, he fakes out the first beast and tears through its defense. That's the beauty of splitting up tasks in a well-built squad. On the other side, Sang-ah fixes her stance and grips her sword hilt. The girl draws her steel and already slices up some monsters there. Full of swagger, she takes over the cover and shows she's game. Right as time, Kim yells from the back that round 2 is ready to go. Smirking, the hero gives the go-ahead and says he's jumping out of the line of fire. The ally triggers his magic and blasts an absurd amount of flames all at once. And here's the beautiful part. The new blast is so crazy it clears the rest of the map. Touching down, the kid already readies his spear for the final kill. Without even blinking, he gives the order to sweep the 2 little monsters left there. The kid deletes one at the tip of his blade, while the girl runs the opposite way. Stabbing his spear into the ground, he stops and scans the area. Wiping his sweat, the vet looks satisfied at the damage the trio did to the place. Kim even hypes up the team, hyped about the successful massacre. But the joy is short-lived. Kim pulls out a weird gun and takes a tense stance. Ignoring the tension, the shooter just thanks them for the backup and aims lower. The kid even calls his name, thinking the guy switched sides out of nowhere. Smiling, the ally just asks him to move, leaving the kid relieved he's not getting shot. Actually, the pistol just shoots a tracking microchip into the goblin's corpse. Kim explains this is for the guild scrapper to come pick up the monster's remains. Curious about the slang, he finds out carrying the monster's weight is unviable. That's why the scrap crew comes by at the end of the day, sweeping up whatever makes a profit. Then the company sells the parts and splits the cash with the tracking chip's owner. The newbie even suspects a scam, but Kim warns that signing with a good firm is vital. Showering praises for the surreal win against a horde, the ally suddenly freezes up. And that's when things get crazy. A monster throws a giant rock trying to crush the team. In an insane reflex, the MC pushes Kim away from the brute's impact zone. The guy eats dirt and gets up swearing, but the front duo already knows it went sour. In the shadows of the smoke, a smile packed with sharp teeth tears across the beast's face. Sniffing the danger, the former hero realizes this is the famous mini-boss of the area. Soon the colossal creature shows its face, letting out a deafening roar. Sweat drips. He calculates fast if this demonic gorilla was bossing the goblins. To make it worse, the freak lets out a yell that even shakes the ground around them. Sizing up the monster's mana, he spots the gap in power and tells the team to stay out of it. The two newbies freak out, and Kim even tries a tactical retreat thinking they'll die. Furious, the kid tells them both to back off if they don't want to go home in body bags. That harsh snap hurts, leaving both of them there jaw-dropped and frozen in place. Deep down, he prefers going solo so he can use the black flames without burning his friends. Locking eyes on the target, he spins his spear and invites the beast to a one-on-one fight. And things get wild when the air pressure changes the exact moment they clash. Kim watches the dust rise and asks if they can't save the kid from getting crushed. Without blinking, Sanga warns that things aren't exactly what they seem in there. Amazed, she points out that the kid hasn't taken a single scratch so far, and the former hero's insane talent goes way beyond defense. He dodges deadly hits like a dance and still stabs his spear on the rebound. To top off the madness, every thrust he makes burns the monster with a weird fire. The girl notices the flames suck the beast's stamina, leaving it in slow motion. Smiling chill, the crazy guy is playfully turning a giant monster into a punching bag. All that makes the girl's mind melt, doubting if the guy is really just a newbie. Right in the center, the MC dodges, sliding across the ground to escape the last heavy punch. His body spin turns the shaft's weight into a perfect strike against the beast. Feeling the moment, he plants his foot in the dirt, locking his stance for checkmate. But check this out, it's bizarre. He just throws the spear with everything straight up. The back duo watches the weapon's flight, jaw-dropped, thinking he lost his mind. Frozen in the sky, the blade reflects the light for a second before homing in on the target. Sweating cold, Kim doesn't get how someone drops their weapon in front of the worst enemy. In pure panic, he yells, warning that the freak will swallow their partner alive right there. The beast gets real close, just a few inches from our guy's face. But right then, the blade comes crashing down from the sky, hitting dead on. With the crazy impact, the freak gets crushed into the ground and bites the dust. He decides it's time to finish the job and wipe the beast out once and for all. Behind him, the newbie duo is left jaw-dropped at the show of power. Kim has no clue what's going on, since he swore the kid was struggling. Then, the kid yanks the weapon from the corpse and calls the shooter, who answers spooked. Checking out the body, he asks if it's normal for a beast that size to show up there. To the former hero, this would only make sense in a level 3 corrosion zone or higher. Since the scale has 4 levels, he remembers the warning that the rift was level 0. It clicks and he figures the threat went up to level 3, scaring his partners. Sanga tries to quote the orders, but gets cut off and he tells her to use logic. Freaking out, Kim yells that the power gap between levels is unreal. And, if it's true, the chance of the other hunters leaving this island alive is near 0. In despair, he begs the kid to go save everyone but gets a flat-out no. The poor guy doesn't get it, and the vet gives it straight that you can't save everyone. And the girl defends the hero, reminding him the goal is to close the rift, not rescue. But she turns to the MC and pokes him, asking if he wouldn't want help in a pinch. Full of sarcasm, the kid shoots back, asking if he should feel pity and play hero. He frowns and explains it's not a lack of empathy, but the cold reality of the place. Sadly, in a chaotic world like this, some losses are just inevitable. And when death knocks on the door, No matter how you feel, the end is always the same. That's why the master warns everyone not to lose their heads in all this despair. Surviving while pitying others is impossible, and so, night soon falls over the temple. Later, Chansok opens the wooden door and does a check of the place. Everything seems clear with no sign of monsters taking a huge weight off Kim's back. On watch outside, the hero asks if anything's on radar, but the ally just sees the dark. Then, the shooter points at some flashlights shining far away in the island's darkness. That lighting is a rookie mistake, since it gives away the crew's position on a platter. To make it worse, if another giant beast sees the light, the patrol team is dinner. Grabbing his phone, he texts everyone a warning about the risk of all that light. The text sends, but the kid stays bothered until Sang-ah breaks the silence there. Curious, he asks if wiping out the rift's core solves everything, and she nods yes. The former hero smirks, realizing the problem has a pretty simple fix. So, he declares the only way out is to implode the corrosion rift on their own. Hours later, the shock girl already passed out from exhaustion, sleeping sitting up. On the other side, Kim also passed out leaning against the cold concrete. Wide awake, the kid leaves a little box with a purple button on top of a table. Since the thing beeps if any beast gets close, he bails alone to leave them in peace. Running in the middle of the night, the vet faces the mountains on a stealth mission. Luckily, he memorized the map in the briefing, so the route to the rift is all set. While running towards the rift's core, he ends up feeling a creepy energy stopping his run right on the spot. Pissed, the guy already gets he spoke too soon and curses his own luck out loud. As he preps his attack, a creepy voice echoes in the dark. Focused on the danger, the kid turns his face to meet the threat head on, and he glares back with a killer pressure that would give anyone the chills. Then the hairy giant steps out of the shadows, thinking the spear hero's face looks weird. Far away, the control base goes into chaos when Team 5's vitals vanish. Panicking, an analyst yells that the monsters set up an organized attack on the crew. Without thinking twice, the boss calls a total emergency and begs for armed backup. Then the panel beeps warning some crazy guy is running straight into the rift center. The commander orders to hail them on the radio, asking who the suicidal maniac is. Soon the analyst nails Chansok's name, the same guy who warned about the danger earlier. Sweating cold, the boss orders to open a channel with the kid to figure this mess out. When the line opens, the base just hears the hero swearing at the beast's crazy speed. Over the radio, he blasts HQ for the lack of info and almost gets muted by the team. Cornered, he realizes his current magic fire isn't enough to burn up the creature. The tactic now is to slowly melt the gorilla's health and finish it with a spear strike. But the freak tanks the hits and shows off a defense that borders on ridiculous. All because of the mana spent on the first boss, which left his tank running on empty. Trapped in that hell, the only way out is finding a spot to suck up some fresh energy. Then his internal radar pings with a magic source right next to him, giving that sly smirk. He spots a portal pulsing with power on the ground. Without holding back, the kid charges straight at the portal, pulling the boss with him. Inside the portal, it seems like the world's rules don't apply there. Mockingly, he calls the creature over so it doesn't miss the front row show. Full of swagger, he warns he needs to test out a new trick right there. Meanwhile, the base operator freezes seeing the newbie's GPS vanish from the screen. The commander orders to report the kid invaded the Alpha Rift, swearing from nerves. Deep inside the dimensional cave, the kid finds the place much cleaner than usual. Being level 3, he pictured a small lair, but is blown away by the structure. But the piece is short. The big white gorilla pops up in his face, ready for round 2. Spinning his spear, he warns the tour is over and it's time to cut ties. The beast shoots him a glare, and the kid shoots it back, saying he hates annoying guests. Furious at the insult, the beast roars, baring its teeth to jump at his throat. Man, at that moment the hero remembers the biggest flaw of his OP fire. The problem is the magic burns any living thing around. Even allies get caught in it. Then the magic darkness wraps around his entire weapon for the final strike. So, losing control of this move on the battlefield is signing his own death warrant. Fearless, he flies at the beast's neck, letting the purple blaze take over everything. A clean cut tears through the air, sending a violent blast right into the target's chest. Crushed by the impact, the giant starts getting eaten alive by the weird fire. Since the kid is fighting alone in there, the risk of burning a friend is 0. Watching the damage, he warns that the real show is only starting now. And then he starts gathering all possible energy, sucking it all inside him. Veins of pure magic mark the former hero's skin, recharging his strange battery. This heavy flow widens the kid's energy channels, making him way more lethal. Taking a deep breath, he enjoys the power flowing freely in his blood again. Overflowing with confidence, the MC rates the energy as a heck of a nutritious snack. The beast's screams echo in the cave as the cursed flame burns its hide. Then, the beast's fury explodes in a giant wave of pressure. The impact sweeps the rift's structure with no mercy. Unfazed, the hero smarts, instantly picking up on the enemy's despair. All that screaming was purely and simply a cry for help to the rest of the pack. And that's when everything changes. 3 more giants surround our kid in the cave. Relaxed, the hunter warns that coming in a group won't change their end at all. Spinning his spear burning with dark fire, he sets his stance, calling them all to brawl. Full of energy, he just tries to find the leader in the middle to wrap up the map. But all of a sudden, a creepy chill runs up his spine and he freezes in place. Raising his spear, he realizes the real target was right up there. The kid's look changes, focused on the fight. Out of nowhere, the white-furred giant turns into pure smoke, and this mist comes together, forming a weapon in a new beast's hand. Masked, the beast warns it waited for the fire to go out, surprising the hero by talking. Full of swagger, it swears a rift core is on another level and swears to kill the MC. Quickly, Chonsok notices it won't be easy at all. Wasting no time, he grips his spear tight and charges for the first strike. The blade tears the air and pierces the enemy's defense with brute force. It even tries to block with its own weapon, but the hit is too heavy. The weapon keeps tanking our former hero's hit, but slowly it starts to crack from the sheer force of the strike. Smirking, the kid announces a secret double-orbit spear technique. On a second strike, a magic trail copies the move, spinning at the monster. Totally lost, the masked freak gets spooked by the weapon's crazy speed. The magic makes a blue clone that mimics the exact path of the first attack instantly. Even so, the big monster fights back with its claws. But our guide dodges the attack and explains how the strike works. He says the trick is to slightly delay the spirit clone's hit to glitch out the beast. That sets up a double trap that's almost impossible to dodge. Getting squeezed like this from 2 directions out of rhythm, the villain's mistake is fatal and a magic cone hits him dead on. Right in that gap, the real spear stabs straight into the beast's chest. Cold as ice, the former hero calls the end of the fight, pushing his energy to the max. Several energy spears burst all over the beast's body, wiping it out right then. The mask cracks and it turns to glowing dust, making the kid think it was over there. Man, look at what happens. A magic box pops up in its place, leaving him confused. Clicking the lid open, he reveals a mysterious drop inside the chest. Looking dumbfounded, he stares at the drop, not really getting what he won. Far away, the control base boils over with the news that Team 5 fell off the map. To make it worse, the rescue crashed into the beasts and the island landing went bad. The operation boss pulls his hair, thinking it's the end of the line for everyone. Out of options, he accepts that only a miracle would save the crew from a total wipeout. Then an operator yells that a text came from Chansok and the boss demands to read it. Throwing it on the main screen, the message is short and blunt: the Alpha Rift is gone. Soon the radar confirms the boss vanishing and the instant death of all the monsters. Frozen in his chair, the commander gulps hard, calling that a miracle. The guy's mind melts, trying to get how a kid pulled off the impossible. Back on the island, the MC chills on the ground, admiring the clear sky like nothing happened. Meanwhile, the newbie duo keeps fighting for their lives against a battalion of beasts. Using every last drop of lightning, Sanga slices up whoever gets in the way. Totally exhausted, sheaths her blade, unable to keep up the pace anymore. But she grips the scabbard, forcing her body to prep another lethal draw. Covered in cuts, the girl realizes the monsters won't stop coming, and the hero is gone. Kim screams for her, panicking over his partner's rough shape. In the middle of the mob, he stops believing they'll even breathe the next day. The girl gets right away that the shooter is also busted and out of mana. Her legs shake, giving away that her body is about to completely shut down. Out of nowhere, one of the beasts roars, tearing the air and flies straight in for the kill. Pulling strength from beyond, she steps up to clash with the monster's hit. Except the fatigue takes its toll and she totally misses the strike. The monster jump, dodging the attack while 2 more move in to jump her. Her partner's desperate scream echoes, seeing the situation she was in. That gross mouth full of teeth gets real close to bite her head clean off. With no strength left to react, the mage screams desperately for the girl. And that's when the tables turn. The fury fades and the full moon lights up the silent night. Confused, the swordswoman slowly opens her eyes. Scanning the brush, she tries to figure out the piece that fell over the place. There simply wasn't a single monster left, leaving Kim looking dumbfounded without a clue. Back at the island base, the vibe now is all bandages and people breathing relieved. The MC arrives and checks out the wounded, realizing things got ugly at the base. Everyone there is stunned by him, jaw dropped to the kid solo in a rank 3 rift. The crew's minds melt trying to get it, and he just strolls through casually with his weapon. Noticing the boss arrive, the newbie duo waves and pulls him aside. Phone in hand, Kim demands answers for that suicidal madness of going alone. Being super fake, he says he did it to save everyone, already focusing on his PR. Pushing it, he even says he would have gone earlier, until a voice cuts him off. Out of nowhere, a suit pops up introducing himself as a big shot from Korea Ops. The kid remembers this guy was the recruiter, and the agent already asked for a word. Straight up, the man warns that the city mayor insists on meeting the hero. Stepping on the city hall carpet, he rolls his eyes at this old man habit of giving orders. With no bonus in the contract, the kid decides to squeeze the city for more cash. Right at the door, a guy holding an umbrella gives a super polite bow. This is Lee Pil-jae, the PR guy in charge of bridging things with the government. The dude kisses up, saying the mayor fell out of his chair reading his report. The boss even cleared his schedule, but the kid drops the truth that he didn't do much. Stubborn, Pil-jae reminds him that a feat like this only happened with a legendary great pioneer. Ending the chat, the guide opens the office door announcing the star's arrival. In the back, the mayor of Incheon flashes a politician's smile and thanks him for the visit. Named Park Jian, he quickly apologizes for the rushed invite in that nasty weather. Real quick, the man tells him to grab a chair and demands hot coffee from Pil-jae. Clinking his cup on the saucer, the politician pours out praises for serving the country. The island was causing headaches and the safe was empty, so he loved the cheap labor. Between sips, the MC confirms that this was his first gig around there. All emotional, the mayor stands up saying Incheon is proud to launch this hero. And it doesn't stop there. He drops a patriot speech that leaves the kid totally lost. Selling the city, he mentions the airport and foreign investors throwing cash at the area. The politician's eyes shine talking about the river of money crossing Incheon's skies. To wrap up, he swears up and down he'll cover the hero with backup for whatever he needs. Leaving that nonsense, Chon-sok gets in the car and turns to the suit. Suspicious, Pili asks the real question, wanting to know why he became a hunter. The kid says if the toilet clogs, someone has to get their hands dirty and fix it. In silence, the agent reflects on the weight of that dirty, yet very realistic answer. Soon he warns that fame is knocking on the door with TV invites and dumb commercials. Reading the room, the former hero picks up on Pil-jae's fear of him becoming just a sellout. This human weakness is normal in a world where there's only misery past the wall. Since Korea is the last country standing, heavy cash buys souls easy around there. Given that, the kid's heroic feat shine too bright for those who lost faith in justice. Sincere, Pil-jae asks the hero to stand his ground as a true symbol of light. Looking at the view, the kid gets curious to see how far the city will go. It's clear the mayor isn't even hiding his bad intentions, but the MC isn't buying it. After all, living so long in the other world taught him how the game works. So, the kid drops the truth and asks what the price for all this backup is. And then things flip. He calls the guy out for just wanting help to get re-elected. Embarrassed, the politician stutters and praises how fast the internet is. The hero points out his term ends next year and his re-election is on thin ice. Trying to stall, the man brings up that the island mission needed the city's green light, but the goal is clear. The politician wants to steal the hype and say he found the talent. Selling his pitch, the suit mentions his connections with the giant companies around there. One example is a coffee commercial he could pass on for the newbie to shoot. Promising more perks, he tries to keep going, but the MC cuts him off right there. Totally cold. The kid warns he's not cheap enough to be bought out like that. Leaving the man speechless, the former hero warns that the world needs a new idol. Basically, if an insane talent like him keeps on hunting down riffs, all this cash and influence will naturally fall into his lap either way. Sweating cold, the suit throws easy missions on the table, but the offer is garbage. Mocking him, the kid tells the mayor to go congratulate the current commercial guy. Cause by the looks of it, the poor guy is gonna have to renew his contract. Turning his back on City Hall, he casually walks out into the rain. Meanwhile, Pil-jae kneels in the water under the rain in front of a hooded guy. The mysterious boss states the island test failed, and the henchman begs for forgiveness. Shaking in his boots, the agent tries to save his own skin, saying he brought something good. Intrigued, the villain checks the phone showing the leaked Hunter tournament recording. On the screen, the MC's rare flames leave the suit jaw-drop at the sheer power. Smiling a sinister smile, the hooded guy praises the kid's dangerous talent. September arrives and people line up at the big screens wanting to see the new world list. A kid hypes up with his phone in hand showing the update to his mom at home. On the streets, people are guessing the top names, while others couldn't care less. But this time, anyone tuned in knows the boring list just took a massive earthquake. The association president gets the fresh list straight from an analyst's hands. Far away, Seo Noon herself suspects that the unarmed crazy guy made it onto the ranking. Wearing a sharp suit, the MC stares at the screen thinking this fame show is just nonsense. To him, what really dictates the money are the top 10 in the world that year. And Janabi's leader holds down 10th place, making her mark in the global elite. Sitting in 5th is the elite sniper with his golden rifle turning heads. The podium's bronze goes to a crazy guy showing off pure firepower all over his body. Taking the silver, a giant of pure muscle shows up in the middle of a wrecked background. Man, right now the top of the list crowns none other than the newbie, Chan Sok. Just then, a suit warns that the waiting time in the dressing room is up. Giving a nod, the hero hears the guy congratulate his crazy jump on the leaderboard. After all, making the global elite in record time like that is just insane. If it was a veteran killing a grade 3 boss, the media wouldn't even care. But since it's the newbie's very first mission, it's raining mics on him up on stage. Thinking it's all a circus, he warns he only has time for one more question from the crowd. A kiss-ass reporter asks for a catchphrase about the future of humanity. Totally confident, the MC tells everyone to forget the typical hero cliches. He coldly declares that the only thing that will speak for him are his results. Days later, flying in a chopper, a guide points to the ruins of Gonzal prison. The association bosses with him and regrets that the outside world has already collapsed. Holding down the fort, Korea was the only one to survive and keep making technology. Curious, the MC asks about the rest, and the truth is the capital simply vanished. Stepping on the ruins, the president calls the hero over to see the damage up close. That giant crater is one of the 8 worst global rifts in existence. 13 years ago, the thing opened up, ripping through the center and swallowing the city. It happened in a blink with no warning, and anyone who didn't run in time became history. Nobody caught in the corrupted hole's radius had the slightest chance of escaping. Just like that, millions of lives were wiped off the map in a single blow. Back to today, the suit mentions that governments lost their power to big money. With no patience for history, Chan Sok just asks the reason for that fancy ride. Then the boss drops that the Taebaek gorilla freaked because the kid ignored the invite. Instantly, the giant's mobster-like face pops back into the newbie's head. Turns out, the guild snapped and tried to get the kid's address by force. The president says he played dumb, but warns that Taebaek plays rough and without rules. Pissed off, he admits his current body couldn't tank a direct punch from that brute. Watching the kid, the suit picks up on his urge to fly solo and he confirms it. Then comes the pitch. Taking a VIP government mission to gain political immunity. Catching on, the newbie straight up asks what the price for all this protection is. The president is direct, he just wants a debt of gratitude hanging on the hero's back. Handing over the papers, he pitches the mission as the guy's ticket to a peaceful life. Straight to the point, the mission is to escort a ship fully loaded with basic goods. But reading the paper, the kid spots fancy watches and luxury cars on the basics list. Defending the elite? The old man lies that some people can't survive without a Rolex. He doesn't buy the excuse, judging the useless luxury in a world falling apart out there. The president plays the politics card, saying that big money's networking runs it all. Realizing it's just a delivery run for the rich boys club, he decides to turn it down. Desperate, the boss yells that this is a top priority for the central government. But Chansel cuts him off, not wanting to become a puppet for some rich politician. Pissed off, the suit points his finger, calling him a newbie spoiled by the fame. They glare at each other and the fake friendship vibe dies right there in the cabin. Without warning, the kid just tosses the confidential papers right out the door. Turning his back, the former hero drops an ironic thank you for the ride, and to top it off with style, he says he'll swim back to the capital at his own pace. Man, the crazy guy jumps from the moving chopper straight down the drop without blinking. The president grips his seat, paralyzed and jaw-dropped at the kid's pure madness. Dropping like a meteor, the water explodes in a giant impact right into the ocean waves. High up above, the suit grumbles about how this new generation has lost its mind. Afternoon hits the ancient pier, leaving everything with that yellow sunset vibe. Nearby, an old guy at the port almost chokes on his coffee staring at the sea. The water starts boiling with a bizarre amount of bubbles out of nowhere. Breaking the surface, a solid hand grabs onto the soaking wet concrete edge. The MC pulls himself out of the ocean soaking wet, gasping for air like a madman. Sprawled on the dock, he regrets the stupid jump and doesn't get the old man's attitude. The old guy feels bad for the fake shipwreck, and the former hero just says thanks. It's clear in his mind finding a way to get stronger is his top priority. With that, the goal shifts, and he decides to face the most suicidal jobs on the market. That way, he rips the control away from those politicians and plays his own game. Scrolling through his phone, a high-risk contract lights up on the urgent tab. The chosen tough job is jumping into Tsushima Island to rescue a kidnapped crew. And the best part is, the promise is clashing head-on against a level 2 rift. Accepting the mission, He sits on the dock, lets out a sigh, and stares at the sunset. Looking tired, the kid realizes his schedule is going to be packed again. On September 3rd, the fishing crew set sail for shrimp season. But this time around, the waters were super weird. Monsters from Tsushima Island pop out of nowhere hunting fishermen out at sea. Luckily, a survivor reports that the hostages are still breathing. The goal now is to invade the island, save the crew, and close the rift. Reading his phone, the kid gets how tough this job is. His eyes go wide seeing the 55 million won reward. And if he flies solo, all that cash goes straight into his pocket. Asides the money, winning brings a huge boost to his hero fame. Shansok thinks the risk is worth it but still hesitates. For context, a grade 3 rift hits as hard as a battle tank, but a grade 2 monster is like facing a natural disaster. For a grade 1, the whole country has to team up to kill one beast. Weighing the risks, the MC realizes he might need backup for this one, who could be useful. Soon he remembers the perfect person for the job. The shot focuses on a warrior with armor and a spear in the heavy fog. No surprise here, it's our boy Yu Chan-sok. Sang-ah pops up beside him asking how long until they reach the island. Checking the route, he guesses they have about an hour left. She tells him to rest up, warning that this fight is going to be way tougher. But soon she changes the subject, pointing shocked at his shoulder. Height. The girl freaks out seeing the famous Iron Seraph pauldron. The kid says he got it as a freebie from a scrapper, making her jealous. Flexing a bit, he reminds her he's soloed a grade 3 while she's just a newbie, and tells her to get stronger if she wants the IP treatment like him. Then, the story flashes back a few days to explain this team-up. In the flashback, the girl gets the invite to team up and agrees right away. She thinks it's crazy, since grade 2 is even more insane than the last rift. Ignoring her panic, the hero stays glued to his phone screen. Real quick, he drops the bait asking if she wants to become a legend. The kid reminds her she admitted herself she had a lot to learn from him. If she's still up for it, he'll play the newbie's teacher. Under his wing, her power would multiply like crazy. Straight to the point, he asks what her final answer is. She shows off a huge scar and admits she has serious reasons to evolve. Looking him right in the eyes, the huntress doesn't back down an inch, and swears she clashed with hell itself to get more power. Back on the boat, a red siren goes off, pulling them out of their chat. The radar beeps and the shadow of a creepy old ghost ship cuts the fog. Chan-sok focuses his eyes and warns that there are actually 5 enemy ships. Sizing things up, he notes the invasion has to be completely stealthy. He throws it to Sang-ah, asking if she's got any tricks up her sleeve. Challenging her, he forbids the girl from making excuses not to help. She processes the challenge in silence, coming up with a quick plan. Smirking, she teases him, asking if there's something the master doesn't know. But he frowns while she bursts out laughing because he can't walk on water. Right away, the waves crash hard, making a bizarre sound. Fact is, the kid is crossing the sea riding on the girl's back. He shoots a focused and totally lethal glare toward the ships. Getting close, the master tells the newbie to clear the first ship. By the hero's logic, the ships in the back have a much heavier magic aura. She nods and takes a blind leap right onto the enemy deck. The huntress goes on high alert the second she steps on the rotten wood. A weird shadow pops up ahead, and she hopes it's just a lost civilian. But the MC yells from afar for her to pay closer attention to the target. Checking its steps, it's pretty clear no human walks crooked like that. Sure enough, a bizarre ghost pirate roars in the middle of the fog. The girl balances on the ship's edge and draws her sword for the fight. Never missing a joke, the master warns she's gonna bust her knee landing like that. Because of that, the noise grabs the attention of the whole skeleton army. Stepping firm, the kid gets ready to launch his attack. His stance shifts and the hero's magic pressure wraps around everything. And in the blink of an eye, a brutal blast clears the entire deck. Chan-sok relaxes, seeing those bags of bones are bottom tier for grade 2. He looks over worried if his student is handling things on her own. Man, when he looks, the crazy girl is burning mana. Like there's no tomorrow. Yelling the girl's name, pure panic hits our hero's voice. Running over, he curses the newbie's lack of energy control. The warning is clear, you don't need all that power to kill weak beasts. He remembers promising to boost her stamina through hardcore training, but her reckless rushing makes him swear out loud in the chaos. A flash wipes out the enemies while the master just mutters a curse. Complaining non-stop, he demands she chills out with the magic drain. Practically begging, he tells her to dial it back so she doesn't pass out. Senga glares right at her master, totally caught up in the heat of battle. Deep down, she carries the heavy trauma of never wanting to be weak again. Back to the fight, a blindfolded pirate jumps at the huntress's neck. The beast's rotten jaw opens wide, trying to bite a chunk out of her. But her reaction is brutal, and her blade splits the enemy in half instantly. That thirst for power speaks louder, willing to go to hell if she has to. Beating the threat, the monster's bones drop to the deck like trash. Sing-ah gasps for air, surrounded by a mountain of wrecked carcasses. From the next ship, the kid hears his student ask if the mess is over. Sighing, he says he already wiped out all the other ships by himself. Physically drained, she swallows her pride and admits she overdid it. She drops her guard and thanks him for the tip, surprising our MC. But he doesn't get how Academy vets never fixed such an obvious mistake. The thing is, her talent scared everyone, so he drops a joke about it. Crying from anger, the warrior brags she's better than any past master. Totally quiet, the hero just stares blankly at her crying fit. Then, he swears that one day his student will actually reach his level. With the ships clear, the duo finally steps onto the main island's port. The guards give a respectful salute welcoming the hunters. Getting a quick report, the kid dismisses the support team to fall back. Mission details say the captured crew is rotting at the local shrine. She steps up and explains there are 2 big temples spread around there. Geographically speaking, the Gaijin Temple is a few hours run through the woods. Check out his warning. Getting there is easy. The real hell is gonna be the trip back. He explains the 15 hostages might be hurt, making the escape harder. The vibe is super tense and the island monsters will hunt them with no mercy. So, the only way to escape with everyone safe is by grabbing a car. Spotting a parked van, the kid asks if Sangha is any good at the wheel. And what do you know, the girl floors it and the tires screech right away. The kid almost flies out the window and yells that she's a total psycho. Pissed off, he asks if it has no brakes. But she tells him to drive then. With no way out, the MC swallows his pride and tells her to forget it. Climbing to the roof, he accepts that her crazy driving beats his lack of skill. After all, our hero's thing has always been solving problems with his fists. In front of the car, a monster jumps drooling straight at them. But the kid is quick and shoots a strap right into the beast's face. The hit is hard and tears the enemy apart mid-jump. Pulling the cord hard, the thing feels just like steel. Real quick, the item racks back around his wrist. He steps firm on the metal and praises how tough that makeshift weapon is. But a sudden noise triggers the hunter's max alert. Yelling, he warns the driver that trouble is coming from the left side. Smiling like a crazy girl, she tells him to leave it all to her. Then, she floors the gas pedal and the engine roars loud. Chansok spots the madness and tries to stop her, but it's too late. A giant brute tries to crush the van, wrecking the whole ground. Inside, she just laughs and runs over everything with no mercy. Sighing hard, the MC wonders if he shouldn't have driven instead. The road through the island turns into a real rally in the woods. Now they pull up right in front of an endless wooden staircase. Worst of all, a bizarre army comes running right behind them. Seeing the shrine at the top, he says to gun it. But she mentions the horde. Staying chill, the kid promises to hold the line and his partner trusts him. Just then, the passenger door violently flies open. He jumps out of the moving car saying he'll clear the road. Man, right then, the hero's insane mana leaks out of his whole body. Facing the monsters, the call is simple. Wipe them all out. The violent aura takes over the whole area with crushing pressure. Then the flame of paradox comes into play, covering the stairs. That genius move simply burns away the wood's friction. Like magic, the van glides up the hill like a rocket. Finally, the tires screech at the top of the mountain, right at the door. Inside the cabin, they run straight into the tide of civilians. The hero gets closer and asks if the guy is in one piece. Waking up startled, the guy seems to have no clue what's going on. Then Sangha steps up trying to boost morale and says she's from the association. In shock, the civilian just shakes in his boots, crying from pure terror. The guy's disparate scream cuts through the shrine's silence. Feeling awkward, the girl swears they're there to rescue them, but no luck. Screaming out loud, the victim begs them both to get out of there. Confused, the huntress asks what's the reason for this freakout. Behind her, a giant samurai shadow pops out of nowhere. Except the enemy blade stops in midair, blocked by the MC. Without blinking, he tells his partner to get the hostage to the van while he handles it. The brawl breaks out and the sound of heavy metal clashing echoes through the hall. Feeling the heavy hits, the creature is forced to take a step back. Quickly, the beast attacks, throwing its whole weight against the kid. Solid as a rock, he holds off the pressure without breaking a sweat. With one harsh shove, that giant's defense is ripped wide open. The girl uses the van to ram the samurai far away. She yells she's got the hostages and they need to bounce. Thanks to the impact, the monster ended up trapped under the rubble. The MC sees that and is spooked by the girl's crazy driving. Back in the car, he demands the wheel. But the crazy girl just tells him to get in. Speeding up again, knowing the rescue is done, relieves the tension. But the piece is short when the girl can't believe what's ahead. Desperate, she points into the dark, screaming her partner's name. Out in the woods, a sea of little red dots glares at them. A wall of ugly monsters completely blocks the dirt road. Looking closely, the kid notices one of the run-over freaks survived. Wasting no time, he asks for his partner's sword, leaving her in shock. Bothered, the girl says that taking a warrior's weapon is a huge insult. The MC gives it to her straight, asking if her pride is worth more than the hostages. And before she can even complain, the blade is already in our hero's hand. Gripping the weapon tight, he steps into serious combat mode. Right there, a bracelet hides his trump card to turn the tables. Days ago, back in the island's rift, he'd found a hidden treasure. Surprised by his luck, a shine on the ground caught his eye. It was a super creepy metal glove just left in the corner. Putting the thing on, he instantly saw its potential. The gadget started pulling and storing energy right out of the air. Basically, the thing worked like the perfect portable battery. Fully charged, it guaranteed exactly 5 minutes of pure broken power. Just enough time to go toe-to-toe with that crazy chick from the Janabi Guild. Cutting back to now, both weapons are locked and loaded for the damage. The accessory reacts by sparking up an insane charge of power. And here's the game changer. A magic wave explodes, waving the area. In one insane move, our MC turns the entire horde into dust. From the driver's seat, the girl watches the front row show, speechless. Checking the rearview mirror, she wonders how he sliced so many freaks instantly. But the kid leaves no openings and grips his blade for the finishing blow. With a sharp yell, he tells the van to speed off to the port, tearing up the road. Getting to the docks becomes a matter of seconds in the mad dash. But the party is short-lived, because a living wall still blocks the road. Creatures crash onto the hood, and the hero doesn't even know where they're coming from. Knowing the engine's limit, the girl asks to fight, but gets a flat-out no. Before the argument goes on, the car drives right through a barrier. It was a spell that made a shock field, melting any beast that got close. Flung far away, the freaks get swatted like flies on a bug zapper. Suspicious of the miracle, the huntress keeps her guard up. Finally, the van breaks the blockade and leaves hell in the rearview mirror. An invisible wall simply stops the enemies dead in their tracks on the road. Completely lost, she tries to figure out the trick behind it, until the MC's glowing runic decal on the ground gives the whole setup away. In the flashback, the kid is drawing that magic defense seal on the wall. She gets curious about the trick, and the kid says it's an art to push the target away. Shrugging, he warns that the secret came from another world and can't be taught. Inside, the MC puffs his chest with pride, seeing his skills are still sharp. Sung-ah quickly asks if that rune works against any kind of freak, but reality hits hard, and he admits the technique sadly has a flaw. Simply put, the barrier doesn't hold back real beasts, and then the boss shows up. With a threatening stance, the ghost warrior mumbles about duty and sacrifice. The stare makes the girl whip around toward that armored brute. He figures it's the mind's eye, feeling the heavy vibe, but doesn't even sweat it. Recognizing the move, the huntress remembers it's a gift to predict deadly attacks. This leaves the girl in shock, not getting how a dead monster could be so skilled. Seeing the girl shaking with fear, our MC grabs her sword and tries to calm his partner down, guaranteeing the situation is under control. Real quick, the theory lesson starts where he says that move is pure instinct. Without blinking, the kid promises to show firsthand how to break that OP defense. Man, and that's when things change. The warrior senses danger and steps back in fear. But the retreat is short and the monster charges in, tearing the air with its heavy blade. Sing-ah panics, not getting why the newbie is walking straight to his death. He calmly explains that this battle reflex only reacts to aggression and fear. Playing fair, the weakness is fighting the feeling with pure killer intent in mind. The chat makes the girl remember other fancy names taught in the magic realms. All this is sold by the elite like they're unreachable and almost godlike powers. Right then, the MC stops with all the calm in the world right in front of the target. And, what do you know, the beast freezes instantly, looking like a statue frozen in time. With a simple move, the hero's deadly pressure simply shatters the armor. Staring at the scrap on the ground, the hunter claims those styles are total nonsense. He warns that chasing fake enlightenment only serves to build walls in your mind. In a heavier tone, he makes it clear he has every right to judge those tactics. After all, the wisdom cost a lot of blood in the trenches for 20 long years. Han Sang-ao gulps hard, noticing that goofy guy is hiding some insane power. That hits hard, and the huntress starts questioning what she's doing with her life. Owning her own weakness, she gets that she held herself back while the kid went beyond. It fully clicks, and the warrior swears she'll drop the comfort zone and focus. Facing the wind, she goes over her old scars and remembers her big goal. Then the girl turns her face, holds back tears, and says she needs a huge favor. Smiling weakly, she trashes her pride and asks to become the hero's official student. Standing before the duo, a tall, imposing man introduces himself firmly. "My name is Kim Ji-hyun." With a hostile glare, he coldly declares, "I'm the one responsible for capturing you alive." The pair exchange intense looks and one of them asks suspiciously, "Alive?" Leaving no room for talk, Ji-hyun clenches his fist tight, shutting down the conversation. With clear cruelty, the attacker grabs his defeated opponent by the hair. And, just like that, Ji-hyun tosses the opponent away. Han Sang-ah reacts in shock and confronts the enemy directly. "Are you throwing people into the corrosion rift?" The response is a sinister warning. Victims stay trapped in the rift, with no chance of escape, until the core is destroyed. Horror washes over the young woman as she processes the cruelty of that sentence, and the weight of the truth. Watching a human get deformed and turned into a creature of corrosion, he lets out a cry of absolute disbelief. Jaehyun watches the result with disdain, claiming the host was weak and that this process is just standard procedure. Without warning, he lands a devastating blow, channeling all his strengths into an overwhelming impact. The impact paralyzes everyone. Sang-ah, in shock, can barely speak, while her companion Chan-sok remains silent. Processing the horror, a cruel doubt arises. Will they do the same to everyone? Ji-hyun cynically confirms that sacrificing people is just a common procedure. With a mocking smile, he evaluates the failed experiment, complaining that the creatures didn't reach the expected efficiency. Chan-sok realizes the truth and interrupts his partner. The kidnapper's goal isn't money, making the situation way more dangerous. He understands that the hostages are just disposable pieces to feed a horde of monstrous creatures. Seen from behind, Shansek faces Ji-hyun, who stands waiting by a yellow car amidst the rubble, radiating arrogance. With a sneer, Ji-hyun reveals his group are the descendants of Dan-gun, united by a single goal. He emphasizes that the organization's purpose is to ensure the absolute hegemony of South Korea, eliminating any opposition. The guy lands a hit so heavy it sends everything flying, tossing cars and debris with the shockwave. Amidst the chaos, his wild grin shows he sees this as the perfect chance to level up his skills. Right then, Ji-hyun delivers a massive kick to the nearest vehicle. A car gets launched through the air like a toy. Surrounded by the wreckage, Chan-sok lets out a frustrated shout about the whole mess. The shockwave from the strike is so intense, it makes the nearby building facade shake violently. A cloud of smoke cuts through the ruins. Leaning on his weapon, the duo stares in shock at the destruction. With a furious look, Ji-hyun sprints forward to attack. In response, the hero charges in low, his gaze cold and focused. The enemy leaps high, winding up for a downward strike with everything he's got. Taunting him, Ji-hyun tells his opponent to reflect on the history of the Korean peninsula, claiming it carries the weight of his attack. Memories of past oppression fuel his rage. Recalling how his people were stripped of everything and forced to bow, the mood turns heavy as he brings up the loss of national sovereignty, symbolized by a flag that marks a history of humiliation. Chan-seok locks onto his foe, noting his speed and swears he'll make him pay for every bit of disrespect. He unleashes a devastating attack, creating a shockwave that leaves his opponent stunned by such raw power. And that's where it gets crazy. The kid slides backward, dragging his feet across the broken ground to clear the blast. His partner Han Sang-ah watches the fight from a distance. With a cocky, ironic smirk, he calls out his opponent's motive, who admits he has no intention of saving the world. The boy brushes off the concern for lives at risk, firing back that they're the ones who don't get what's actually happening. Chan-sok holds his ground and says they've found a way to control the corrosion rifts. The kid freezes, processing the reveal and realizing everything they knew just shifted. Standing firm, he asks if controlling the gates would end the suffering and bring stability to everyone. Hearing about control, Jaehyun shifts his stance, showing interest in cooperating if it helps him get Han Sang-ah. Instead of giving in, Jian gives a mysterious smile and fires back, "Why should I tell you?" Visibly rattled by the reveal, Shan-seok shouts that if the control over the gates isn't absolute, then it isn't real. With total disdain, he calls them scammers, claiming their talk doesn't make up for the lack of proof. The talk gets cut short by a sudden strike. While attacking, Jion mocks them for hiding behind fake causes. Tension explodes in an impact that shatters the ground and sends rocks flying, forcing everyone back through the dust. Looking at the damage, he wonders with a smirk if he went a bit too hard on that attack. He realizes the plan to stall for energy failed. With a resigned look, he admits the only way out is to keep fighting. Things are looking rough and the kid notices his mana is tapped out, blocking his paradox flame. With no choice, he braces for a long, draining fight for survival. Silence is broken by an electric hum. Noticing the sudden energy surge, Jaehyun's eyes go wide, frozen in shock at what appears before him. Before he can react, a lightning-fast strike cuts through the air. Surrounded by electricity, Sangha lands a precise hit, forcing him to move instantly to avoid taking it head-on. Shock turns into frustration. Frowning, he admits he totally underestimated her. The fight hits its peak as her blade crackles with electricity, signaling a dangerous charge ready to be unleashed. With a calm gaze, she holds her ground. Her cold voice cuts through the air, asking with irony if he finally found the courage he was missing. Shanso-sok tries to shield Han Sang-ah, telling her to get back. He whispers, clearly worried about the critical energy levels in her gauntlet. The clash pauses. With a mysterious smile, he taunts, "You need time, right?" Her silence confirms she's hesitating. Keeping her cool, Sang-ah holds up a glowing vial and asks with determination, "How much do you need?" She downs the vial in one go, setting a 5-minute limit for what's coming next. The empty vial hits the floor with a sharp metallic clink, starting the countdown. Intense electrical energy starts radiating from Han Sang-ah. Standing firm, she takes charge and declares, "Leave this to me." The energy scares her ally, who fears an overload from the elixir. She replies it's an emergency resource and they only have one shot at this. Adjusting his gear that glows blue, the guy confirms he'll need just 5 minutes to finish the job. At the peak of the tension, she stares down Yu Chen-sok and fires off a direct warning. "Don't you dare lose, Yu Chen-sok." The scene shifts to a winding mountain road under a heavy sky, marking the site of the final showdown. The weather turns with a deafening thunderclap, while a bolt of lightning illuminates the empty road, signaling the start of the clash. Keeping his cool, Ji-hyun tries to break the tension by taunting, "Take it easy, pretty girl." Unfazed, she unleashes an overwhelming electrical discharge, reflecting all her fury and determination. The impact is brutal, but an urgent alert cuts through the moment. "You might end up taking him out by mistake." The warning forces an immediate reaction. The shock of reality is written all over his face as he realizes the gravity of the interruption. The attack continues with a massive discharge tearing through the target, who stands still like a silhouette under the intense light. Amidst the dust and sparks, she watches with anticipation and doubt. Did I actually hit him? The blow was devastating. With blood trickling from the corner of his mouth, Ji-hyun just whispers in disbelief. "What?" Landing a heavy strike on the girl, he says, "Is that all?" "Nothing special." The energy wave expands with the impact, revealing that the force of the fight has reached an overwhelming level. The strike hits the girl square on, knocking her down and drawing blood after she was caught completely off guard. In a swift motion, a firm hand grabs Senga to hold her steady. With a look full of mockery, he stares at his opponent up close and taunts, "Hey, sewing machine face." Activating his device, which emits a blue glow and a hum, he asks, "Are you ready to meet your end?" Hyun is stunned, feeling his energy spike out of nowhere. She can't believe he's been hiding his true power this whole time. Before she can react, he closes the gap and pins her down, asking with a smirk, "Why so surprised?" He reveals her power secret is tied to those piercings. She's frozen in shock, wondering how he figured out something so hidden. Wielding his weapon, Shasok glares at her with total disdain, saying, "Only a fool wouldn't have known that." Pointing out a fatal mistake, he explains the area is saturated with mana, and she's wasting energy, unable to control the overflow. With a mocking grin, Shansok shows off his restored strength and taunts, "Shouldn't you thank me for helping you recover my paradox flame?" Unable to process it, Jihyun insists it's impossible to absorb wasted mana like that. The hero cuts the talk short. With a lethal look, he says she doesn't need to understand because her fate is already sealed. A violent wave of blue energy explodes all around them. Starting a devastating combo, he lands 16 precise hits that overwhelm the entire battlefield. The impact leaves his opponent breathless and in shock, as if her own body is being paralyzed from the inside. Watching her struggle, Chansok notes with contempt that she's trying to keep her pride, ignoring that only the mana drain is keeping her standing. With a blank expression, Chansok coldly declares that even after burning through all her muscle strength, she's still trying to resist. Consumed by the darkness, she lets out a cry for help, calling for the captain before losing consciousness. Suddenly, a blinding flash erupts in the area, washing everything out. Moving with insane speed, the hero appears on the scene, eyes locked and ready to step in. He unleashes a blast of pure energy, creating a massive shockwave that makes the whole place tremble. The metallic sound of blades clashing rings out, intercepting the enemy attack in a heartbeat. With the tension at an all-time high, Chansok stares down the enemy and asks, his voice ice-cold, "What is it this time?" The opponent acts all cocky, admitting he just wanted to crush the kid's wrist. But the spear that appeared in his hands changed the game. Blown away by the kid's speed, the enemy stares him down and drops a comment. "You've got good instincts." The young guy just looks at him with disdain, calling out his basic archery style and wondering if this is really the captain he was looking for. That energy radiating off the guy clears up any doubt. He realizes the hard truth. This man's power is at least double what Lee Se-yoon has. The enemy cranks up his oppressive aura, taunting, "You've got guts, not afraid of dying?" The hero realizes this guy's technique is on a whole different level. Staying cool under pressure, he analyzes the situation. Looking at the man up on the structure, he figures if the guy wanted him gone, he'd be done for, so he decides to talk it out. The stranger lets out a dark, purple glowing energy and locks eyes with him, asking, "Are you interested in this one?" And just like that, everything changed. The flames turn wild and scorching, and Jian, struggling to breathe, lets out a desperate cry for help. Unfazed, the stranger keeps his cool and orders the flames around Kim Jian to die down, warning he won't say it twice. Watching closely, the hero notices Kim Jian was completely out of mana before passing out. The hooded stranger is actually using his own life force to keep him alive. He thinks back on the fight and realizes how close he came to the end. If that arrow had hit his head instead of his wrist, it would have been game over. But for some reason, the enemy spared him. Exhausted, the opponent collapses under the weight of the fight, eyes glazing over as he loses consciousness, unable to even react. The pain is unbearable, forcing a sharp gasp as he fights to hold on to what's left of his focus. Suddenly, the hooded figure appears and grabs the opponent by the shoulder, shutting down any chance of a counterattack. After the interruption, a cold, blunt compliment echoes like a final verdict for the defeated. Furious at what they did to Kim Jian, Chansok challenges the enemy, still reeling from how fast the guy closed the gap. The attacker lays out Yu Chansok's grim future trapped relying on machines and mana and makes it clear he's taking the hero alive, filling the air with pure dread. With zero remorse, the attacker sparks electricity between his fingers, treating his victim like a disposable tool, refusing to be a puppet. The hero stares him down, choosing death over losing his freedom, and ignites his own aura, leaving the enemy stunned by his defiance. Facing those flames, the strategist decides to pull back to study that power source, leaving a chilling warning. Appearances lie, and just like in the corrosion gates, hidden dangers are everywhere. Despite the exhaustion, the hooded figure watches the fallen opponent with satisfaction, convinced he finally got exactly what he wanted. With a sinister grin, he threatens the kid. Sooner or later, he'll just be another pawn under his control. Amidst the dust and destruction, the clash rages on, forcing the survivors to push through the rubble. Frustrated by how the battle is turning, he lets out a sigh, feeling the situation slipping through his fingers. Exhausted, he reflects on the recent mess and admits he's gotten tangled up with someone who's a total handful. Silence hangs in the air as he pauses, like he's weighing his next move against all that tension. His partner, limping from her injuries, asks if they're after her ability. He confirms it, though he still doesn't get the real reason behind their interest. She wonders why they didn't just grab them while she was out cold. He warns that their caution might come from knowing way too much about their past. He throws out a thought. Are they just terrorists? He suggests they need to look at the group's actual behavior to figure out their motive. With a steady gaze, she weighs the consequences of her future actions and whether the Korean government would even approve of her plan. Analyzing the situation, he reaches a worrying conclusion. It's likely their opponents are getting support from outside forces. He hesitates to clear the corrosion rift since the enemy claims to have it under control, but decides to ignore the doubt and act on his own. Han Sang-ah confesses, looking vulnerable, that she has no talent for lying. Watching her, he's known that for a long time. Wasting no time, he decides the priority is handling the current threat and tells her to wait while he heads in solo. Sang-ah hesitates, looking him in the eyes with uncertainty as she asks if he really prefers to go without her. His expression turns dark and heavy as he warns her she has no idea about the horrors inside, shutting down any argument. Determined, Chansok faces the unknown, convinced that only by moving forward will he know what's waiting for him. Without giving her a chance to argue, the hero takes off with a clear order. She needs to rest and recover until he gets back. Driven by urgency, he moves fast, cutting through the air and diving into the darkness. He reaches the final destination, an ancient imposing temple housing the unstable level 2 corrosion rift in Tsushima. Getting closer, he notices a magic seal, glowing green above the door, guarding the inside of the rift. Without hesitating, he touches the barrier, feeling the seal's energy give way under his hand. The kid looks up at the structure, finally facing the challenge of a level 2 corrosion rift. He notices that for a place meant to hold only weak undead, the building is weirdly solid and tough. The air is so thick with yin energy that breathing feels like swallowing blades, and he knows something dangerous is waiting behind that door. The gathered energy shatters the barrier, revealing the source of the corruption, the heart of the corrosion rift. Tension hits him as he preps for the fight, knowing any slip-up could be his last. Silence fills the room as he steps into the bright light, staring down the unknown with his heart racing. Carefully, he checks the cauldron glowing with green flames, realizing the danger is way more real than he thought. He pauses at the sight of the boiling liquid, releasing vapors that carry a super creepy and unsettling aura. And that's where it gets crazy. He realizes the artifact in front of him isn't just anything. It's the actual core of a level 2 corrosion rift. This revelation leaves him frozen, hitting him with the hard truth that things just went from bad to way worse. His eyes go wide and total silence takes over while he tries to process how serious this find really is. Suddenly, a figure drags itself across the floor, eyes glazed with terror, desperately begging for help as they try to get closer. With no time to waste, a gross, sticky liquid starts leaking from the structure, signaling the core is releasing something dangerous. The desperation is clear on his face. His voice cracks as he whispers that his legs are gone, begging for rescue in pure agony. The man is caught while trying one last plea for help, hand trembling and eyes fading before he loses consciousness. The hero watches the scene in shock, unable to believe what he's seeing. In a moment of terror, the guy gets pulled into the glowing, sticky liquid, struggling in vain as he sinks and lets out his final breath. Now you can only hear the sound of a few bubbles. And just like that, everything goes completely silent. With a sharp movement, trembling fingers grip the edge of the structure, revealing a desperate attempt to hold on. A deformed creature emerges from the shadows, empty eyes glowing with arcane energy and a guttural growl signaling immediate danger. Horror steals his breath as he realizes the truth. That cauldron wasn't just creating undead, it was using living people as fuel for its abominations. Shock consumes his entire being, leaving room only for a bitter question echoing in his silence. Why? Before him, flames consume everything and the cries of victims begging for help turn that place into a scene of pure tragedy. The impact of witnessing such horror is unbearable. He covers his face as a groan of nausea and anguish escapes his lips. Shock quickly gives way to deep hatred. His eyes glow with contempt as he observes the human cruelty and he mutters, "Disgusting humans." Repulsion still vibrates in his mind. With a cold and determined look, he notes the inevitability of that cruel cycle and mutters, resigned. Another sacrifice. Heavy footsteps echo through the room before a sinister voice breaks the silence. This one is strange, it differs from the previous sacrifices. Intense energy fills the air and, recognizing that aura, he confirms his suspicion with a simple and determined, yes. An emerald aura begins to wrap around the fighter with supernatural force. The power emanating from the swordsman is dense, leading him to declare it's the energy of a warrior. Without hesitation, he draws his weapon with a movement charged with electricity, ready for the imminent clash. Wrapped in the emerald aura, the opponent stares at his target coldly and raises his sword, sentencing, "I'll temper my blade with your blood." The kid feels his skin crawl from the overwhelming pressure. He wonders if that is really the core of a level 2. Confused, he realizes the focus shouldn't be the monster, but the shadowy figure dictating the rules of the game. His perception crumbles as he notices that, behind that opponent, there is someone even more powerful moving the pieces on the board. Time seems to stop when a lightning-fast strike occurs. He moves with speed, leaving behind only the memory of his previous mistake. The blade cuts through the air with precision, releasing a devastating energy. Faced with such brutality, Shock freezes his thoughts, tearing from him an outburst loaded with frustration. The opponent's speed is unstoppable and he realizes with a cold gaze that his life is hanging by a thread. The strategy is simple now. He needs to take the enemy out before they spot any weakness in his style. With no time to waste, Chansok focuses all his energy into a strike meant to end the duel in one hit. Overwhelming energy radiates from the spot, a blinding glow signaling the start of the final move. The impact echoes with a thunderous force, triggering a shockwave that warps the space around them. His blade cuts the air in a perfect arc, releasing volatile energy that consumes everything in its path. His eyes narrow in surprise as he realizes the situation has taken a wild turn. He pours everything into that decisive strike, but his confidence shatters when he sees it get blocked. And no one saw that coming. The way his opponent moved to block it was completely invisible. Total combat dominance relies on the idea that a lightning-fast attack leaves the opponent zero chances. His furious gaze stays locked, while the belief that certain moves must remain unseen dictates the duel's pace. The impact is brutal. The edge of the weapon pierces through the resistance with precision, leaving no room for hesitation. The blow lands with a heavy shock, and he lets out a pained sound, stunned by his opponent's speed. With a mocking smirk, the attacker watches him dodge, using every defense as a chance to sharpen his aim on vital points. Without letting up, he launches another attack and taunts. "Try blocking this one too." The strike hits his neck and sharp pain forces a cry of agony as he realizes his guard has failed. The opponent, wrapped in a ghostly green aura, appears above him with deadly precision. Dark energy starts pouring out of his body, showing that the fight has reached a critical level of pressure. Gasping, he realizes with frustration that he used a paradox flame too early, regretting that his strongest attack is useless against a non-living being. With no way out and under crushing pressure, the hero struggles to catch his breath while trying to predict his adversary's next move. The aura around him intensifies, and with a chilling, steady gaze, he asks what it would actually take to finally bring him down. Gripping the weapon handle tight, vibrant blue energy surges through his fingers as he preps for the final clash, ignoring every doubt. The charge is brutal and instant. The strike lands clean before he can react, sending him flying back through the wreckage. The impact is overwhelming. He barely processes the pain as a cry of agony escapes him. Feeling his muscles shredded by the sheer force, feeling his body give out, he slides backward. He tries to regain his balance, but exhaustion takes over after that hit. He tightens his grip on the sword. Blue energy pulses intensely between his fingers as he readies a decisive move. Ignoring his wounds, Chansiak charges with a determined look. His guardian spirit appears behind him, pushing the combat pressure to a terrifying level. The impact is so heavy he almost blacks out. By some miracle, he realizes the enemy failed to break the muscles above his shoulders. He activates the paradox flame to rapidly regenerate his muscles. Seizing the opening, he shifts behind his opponent before they can react. The blade's glow reflects in his eyes. A spark of hope crosses his mind. This might be his chance to turn the tables. With a steady gaze, he shuts down any expectations and declares coldly, "Like I said." The enemy has no time to react. Before they process the movement, they hear the icy verdict that ends the fight. Too slow. Energy particles jump through the air like sparks from a battle about to end. A sharp sound echoes through the room. Drops of blood begin to hit the floor. The emerald aura intensifies, suffocating the opponent. The blade pierces the target with absolute coldness. The reality check breaks his focus. The boy lets out a desperate sigh as sweat drips down his face, feeling the weight of that critical moment. A sadistic smile appears on his face. With a shrill crack, the stored energy explodes, reflecting all his cruelty. The combat hits its peak in an intense flash. Emerald energy collides with raw force, and he has to keep his guard up under all that pressure. With his aura still pulsing, he watches the opponent with a sneer and an icy stare, noting they were lucky to have barely survived. Frustrated by his rival's superiority, the opponent glares with rage and accuses him of holding back, claiming he spared his life on purpose the whole time. Overcome by frustration, he grits his teeth under the emerald light. He demands to know the reason for the hesitation, questioning if this is some kind of mockery. The opponent stays cold. With a smug tone, he admits that if he were his old self, he would have ended him right there, leaving the guy stunned. Wrapped in emerald light, he reveals his essence is incomplete. He admits he can't even recall his name, since most of his memories are gone. He confesses his sloppy technique comes from that memory void. Totally defeated, he recalls the day a mysterious man beat him and locked that chain around his neck. Watching it all, Chernsek notices a difference. While his body is still there, his memories were wiped, which is the total opposite of his own situation. He realizes that chain must be the control his enemies kept talking about. Shrouded in energy, he faces his fate with sadness. Touching the chain on his neck, he vents about the weight of a life full of losses. Amidst the glow, he feels he needs to reclaim something unique. With firm resolve, he declares, "My name." In a moment of deep reflection, he finally reveals the reason he chose this path and picked up the sword. The spirit scarred by trauma shows through. Where there was once hope, now only deep resentment remains. Overwhelming energy takes over the room. The air vibrates with such intensity that the power starts echoing everywhere. The force of the energy blast makes him steady himself. The young man shouts, distressed, "Darn it, what's coming next?" A shadowy form manifests, like the darkness itself came to life. An unsettling question echoes through the air. "Is this appearance enough for you?" From the void, an imposing structure emerges carrying a sphere of green light. A sharp slash cuts through the air, signaling the peak of that power. The spectral being keeps his icy posture. Wrapped in ethereal flames, he gives a hollow, ironic look. Don't I look truly pathetic? Silence reigns, but his fixed gaze reveals a shift. The aura around him proves the samurai's resentment has become even more dangerous. Even though the opponent's presence is still intimidating, he spots a weakness. The samurai lost his technique and experience. If he survives one fatal blow, he could turn the tables. With renewed focus, he realizes winning takes more than just strength. He needs surgical precision to overcome his foe. Knowing the decisive moment is here, Shansa drops all hesitation. He unleashes his full aura and declares that, now, he's using his true power. Tension fills the room. He grips his spear while, across from him, the adversary floats with a spectral aura, watching every move for the inevitable clash. The air freezes and the darkness becomes absolute. The opponent releases a terrifying presence, with ghostly eyes ready to consume everything. Black flames wrap around the warrior. They act like a balm, healing his wounds and restoring all his vital energy. The spectral being watches coldly. He realizes those black flames aren't just burning, they're consuming something much deeper. The warrior grins defiantly while swirling the flames in his palm. He reveals this fire doesn't burn matter but incinerates the very essence, concepts. He ponders, though, that while the technique seems to have infinite power, it hasn't reached its peak potential just yet. He explains that the cost of this power depends on the scale of the concept. The bigger the concept, the more mana it drains and the higher the mastery required. Large-scale applications are tough to control. He recalls that facing Kim Ji-hyun, he had to measure every move to avoid destroying himself. Realizing his current limits brings a bitter reflection. He compares himself to a fruit knife. Knowing his control is pathetic compared to the swordsman he used to be. Knowing caution is no longer an option. He decides to break his own restrictions. The urgency of the moment ignores the risk of a backlash. With absolute determination, he decides the restraint is over. He smiles coldly and declares that from now on he'll consume the durability of everything around, leaving nothing standing. The opponent keeps an empty, unsettling gaze, showing zero emotion. He asks what that means, as if the mentioned destruction held no importance at all. Tired, he makes a hand gesture to end the talk. With no patience for excuses, he makes it clear he won't give any more explanations or warnings. A terrifying aura breaks the silence. His eyes turn into black voids, pulsing with a lethal emerald glow that signals his patience is gone. In a swift motion, he unleashes a devastating attack. The collision of emerald energy makes the whole environment shake. The impact is overwhelming. He lets out a groan of pain, struggling to keep control, clearly affected by his own strike. With a calculating smile, he warns that the opponent will learn while getting beaten. Noticing the enemy's limit, his plan clicks perfectly. Amidst the tense silence, he reveals he was only testing his own strength limit. With his eyes glowing in an intimidating emerald shade, he decides the fight needs to continue elsewhere. The battle shifts to the top of the structures with a silhouette of a pavilion roof, shows the combat is now happening high up. They launch into a fast-paced charge. Energy collides violently, forcing both into mid-air acrobatics to keep the attack going. The clash of energies creates a blinding flash. Intense beams cut through the darkness, scattering bright sparks across the scene. With the precision of a predator, he lands a perfect strike while the opponent faces the inevitable. Tension hits the breaking point. The blade crashes down on the hero's guard, forcing him to tank the full weight of the strike. Metal slams against metal with a deafening crack. They're locked in a battle of wills, where one slip-up means game over. The sound of the impact echoes through the area. His defense finally buckles under that relentless pressure. He pulls off a lightning-fast move. The kid is forced into a desperate block, feeling his stamina about to snap. The strike pierces his guard with surgical precision, leaving Chansok wide open. Silence returns after the clash. Only the rock formations remain under the vast sky. Residual energy tears through space, creating a glowing rift that destabilizes the ground and lifts rocks into the air. Gravity seems to glitch out. Massive boulders levitate as if space itself is collapsing under all of that power. Energy gathers at the center of the rock structure, emitting a blinding glow that signals total destruction. The warrior dives at his target, swinging his blade with such conviction that the air around him starts vibrating. A colossal explosion rocks the sky, unleashing a shockwave that swallows everything in sight. His opponent appears wrapped in a cyan aura, descending with sword drawn and eyes locked to seal the fight's fate. The green glow in his eyes intensifies, showing an insatiable hunger for victory as he preps the final blow. The blade cuts through space in a blur of electricity. The attack is so fast that dodging is impossible. In a critical moment, he leaps back, watching the imposing figure descend on him with blades of pure energy. The clash of energies triggers a devastating discharge, creating a flash that wipes out everything in view. The trail of energy cars through the ground, while the central figure watches the power rip across the battlefield. The ground crumbles under such force. Looking at the wreckage, you have to wonder, what even is that? He's hit with total disbelief, admitting he's never seen power like this in his entire life. The being wrapped in blue flame stares down his opponent in silence. Fear fills the air as the question hits, "What are you?" Staying silent, the being reveals eyes glowing with an unnatural green light. Energy erupts in a flash. Blue light tears through the sky as the warrior channels raw power into a ruthless strike. He holds his ground against the shockwave. The sound is deafening, the pressure echoing like a scream of colliding forces. The air seems to shatter into a web of light. Emerging from the epicenter, the warrior prepares an attack that could consume everything. He lets out a growl as his energy explodes in a brilliant blue glow. His presence is pure destructive pressure. A guttural roar echoes through the area. His eyes emanate spectral light while he unleashes all his pent-up fury and power. The environment buckles under the energy discharge. The attack hits its climax with an emerald beam that obliterates every obstacle. Shinsok plummets like a meteor with his spear ready, while his colossal shadow waits below, wrapped in emerald flames. With a war cry, the kid charges at the target, leaving a trail of emerald energy that rips through the air. The creature launches itself like a projectile, wearing a predatory grin and an aura that turns his charge into pure kinetic force. The fight turns into a frantic exchange of blows. Blades cross the air, leaving emerald trails in a duel of extreme agility. In a moment of agony, the boy screams as his physical form gives way under the impact of dark energy. The strike is precise and devastating. The body breaks apart, dissolving into energy trails before an insurmountable power. Even while collapsing, an insane smile appears on his lips, showing the thrill of reaching his absolute limit. They lock eyes in a stare-down filled with hatred, confirming that the real battle of wills has only just begun. The impact reverberates across the region, carving out a massive crater under a whirlwind of purple lightning and emerald light. A purple explosion erupts at the epicenter, turning the entire battlefield into a flash of absolute power. Through the dust, he stays calm and stares at his opponent, curiously asking how someone would act when facing an invincible foe. Silence falls between the two warriors as one of them, catching his breath, is challenged by an intriguing question. How would he react to an opponent on his own level? Amidst the battlefield wreckage, he breaks the silence, stating that while the question might seem irrelevant, it's necessary. Doubt hangs in the air as he admits that facing an enemy he can't beat is a real possibility now. With a fixed, anxious stare, the kid wonders what reality would look like if someone just as strong showed up. Keeping a straight face, he brushes off the uncertainty, making it clear who would come out on top. And that's where it gets crazy. He flat out says there's no way both of them are walking away from that fight. The silence breaks as an overwhelming presence appears, eyes glowing with a dangerous lethal aura. That intense glare shows a hunger for battle that turns the whole place into a total wreck. With a confident smirk, Chansok asserts his dominance, convinced that nobody can touch him. Without a second thought, he slams his blade into the ground, sending a blue shockwave that shakes the earth. Watching the destruction with cold eyes, he sees the energy trail as just the start of his enemy's downfall. The raw power reveals a mysterious chest wrapped in a vibrant aura. Touching the item, he notes with satisfaction that it works just like the one from the other world, confirming the system is still active. An electrified blade hits the target with pinpoint accuracy, the sound of the impact echoing through the charged air. Checking out the new weapon, he scoffs, wondering if this tiny thing is actually supposed to be a spear. Gripping the energized handle, he lets out a sigh of disbelief, muttering that he can't believe what he's holding. The attack fires off at high speed, tearing through the air as the spear relentlessly hunts its target. Examining the weapon, he finds the blade can extend using mana, realizing this will be super useful for his plans. He recalls the rules of this place, where rewards in the corrosion rift depend on how many people enter the gate. Testing the weapon's potential, Chansok regrets bringing Han Sang-a, thinking he should have just given her a cut of the loot instead. a pang of worry hits him as he wonders if Han Sang-a's sword actually held up during the recent fights. Under a starry sky, the anti-aircraft defense building stands tall and silent in the middle of the night. Worn out from constant battles, she finally drifts off, seeking a moment of peace amidst all the uncertainty. The quiet rest is cut short by a sharp, vibrating noise echoing through the room. Firm footsteps approach until the silence is broken by the crisp sound of a sword being sheathed, still groggy from sleep. She opens her eyes and confusedly calls out Chansok's name. Shinsok says he found it along the way, explaining he returned it because he recognized it as a top-tier blade. The blade slides smoothly into the scabbard with a flawless shine. Impressed, she thanks him and compliments how well kept the weapon is. Worried about the sword's origin, she asks if it came from the corrosion rift and if he's okay, quickly pivoting to ask if Sang-a got some rest. Silence returns as he holds an intense gaze, making it clear there's no room left for hesitation. Without any warning, his body collapses to the floor. As she watches, a calm voice says it's time for a well-deserved break. Noticing he passed out, she looks on with resignation, noting that this seems to be a recurring habit of his. The gap between second and third rank is nearly impossible to cross, so the news that Yu Shansok cleared a second-ranked dungeon solo shocked everyone. Out on the streets, people talk in disbelief about the rookie's feat, concluding it makes no sense since even veteran duos can't pull that off. Shansok's fame explodes, turning him into a phenomenon plastered across the city's digital billboards, catching every pedestrian's eye. This sudden success brings a problem. His phone is flooded with notifications, leaving him frustrated as he can't see the important messages. Looking out the window at the gathering crowd, he realizes that leaving the house has become an impossible mission. Sharp knocks at the door break the silence, and he turns with a serious look, as if he were already expecting a visitor. Opening the door, he finds Jasu Jung, a representative from the Embargo Tower, whose visit is about to change his plans. Shansok thanks her for covering his hospital bills but admits he's never heard of the organization. She explains they focus on information and communication tech. Sujong offers her help if he needs anything, but the guy, feeling uneasy, reveals he has an important question to ask. With a sharp look, she questions the real reason behind his distrust, suggesting that such high medical bills wouldn't be paid out of pure kindness. Facing the direct question, Chansek drops the act and says it's time to get straight to the point. The tension breaks when Sujong shifts her expression, smiles calmly, and surprisingly asks if he likes cake. Focus shifts to a tech device hovering in the air, a prototype shield generator built to block corrosion creatures. A strawberry cake sits on the table, but Sujong's invite hides intentions way bigger than a snack. With his mouth full, Chansok asks if he's really the one for the job, and she confirms the mission is meant for him. Sujong stresses that mass-producing this prototype is crucial, as it could change the fate of all humanity. The weight of her words hits him, and he stares back seriously, finally grasping the gravity of the task. Hearing they're recruiting other hunters, he's shocked and asks who else is involved in the plan. Shansok learns that Janabi is on board, and that name alone makes him realize this mission is way more dangerous than he thought. The logistics are laid out. The generator goes by train from Vladivostok to the Netherlands, then by helicopter to Dover for testing. He questions why the UK, and she explains that the Ristorante, a powerful group for Naples, controls Europe and North Africa. The UK was chosen because it's a safe haven, naturally protected by the sea. The continent is in chaos, with governments fallen and hunter firms acting like warlords, so they'll also be escorting humanitarian aid. With a serious look, the guy confirms his suspicion. He knows people are waiting to intercept the train. Asked about his international experience, he admits it's his first time in Europe, and the guy warns the journey will be terrifying, leaving him tense as he asks if they're in this together. She clarifies that the Embargo Tower is handling data collection and confirms she'll be part of the field team herself. While eating, he says it's good to see familiar faces, but finds it weird how she assumes he's in without giving him a choice. She firmly sets one condition: for them to move forward, the hunter Han Sang-a has to join them. He asks if it's the same person from Tsushima, and she confirms, saying she trusts her completely. Impressed, he admits it'd be a privilege to have Han Sang-a on the team and agrees it's a great opportunity. He reaches out to seal the deal, feeling this alliance will speed up his plans way faster than he thought. The sound of helicopter blades echoes through the building. An aircraft lands on the rooftop helipad, signaling the start of the mission. He's surprised they're using a chopper for a civilian mission. With a smirk, he thinks about how priorities shift between rank 2 and 3 gates. A man in a suit with a cane calls him chairman and promises the association will provide full support. now that expectations have turned into a real strategy. Satisfied, he notes that showing off skills in action makes everything way more efficient. He scans the area, wondering if the chairman knows they exist, and how he'd even react. The guy ponders the man's true intentions. Does he actually want to save the world, or does he prefer things to stay this messy? Interrupted by a noise, the boy opens the door and is shocked by who he finds. Lee Seun is sitting there, arms crossed, staring at Chansok with a serious look. She greets him, making it clear they couldn't just ignore this reunion. Sin mentions the rumors about him reached Chorwand. He laughs, joking that at this point it'd be hard for anyone not to know his reputation. As the helicopter gets closer, the man with the cane asks for the destination and his companion says they're heading to a military base. He finds the trick to the army strange, but learns the South Korean military is joining the Embargo Tower mission too. He realizes the global greed for the generator is natural, since the tech would cut down countries' reliance on hunters. Being cautious, he points to the table and asks the girl if she knows about the Dangun descendants. She confirms she knows the ultranationalist terrorist group, and is stunned to hear he ran into them in Tsushima. She explains the group has been sabotaging hunters everywhere, interfering with the clearing of corrosion gates. Analyzing her report, he shows he understands the organization's stance without judging their motives. She watches him intently, staying silent, as if she's measuring every single reaction before wrapping up the talk. Keeping his cool, he makes a precise move with his hands to grab something, confirming he got the message. Receiving a treat, the young man looks at the pumpkin candy, confused, and asks why she's offering it. She asks if Chanjasok has traveled abroad, testing his international experience. Annoyed by her prying, he mentions he's the second person to ask today and clarifies this is his first time traveling this far. Lowering her gaze, she tells him to think what he wants and warned that the mission might take some unexpected turns. As they talk, a helicopter appears in the sky, and that's where it gets crazy. Chansok is about to face some harsh truths. With the room feeling tense, Chansok takes charge and kicks off the meeting. He hands out documents to everyone, asking them to look over the materials carefully. While they read, the girl watches everything with a calm look that hides some major secrets. Major General An Hoon Seo steps up to break down the operation. He projects the layout of the 80-car train, 65 for supplies, and 15 for the hunters and military crew to rest. Lee Sun, being one of the strongest hunters, gets the perk of having an entire car all to herself. The Embargo Tower assigned a small group, including Janabi, to guard the generator. But everyone's worried about team fatigue on such a long trip. An officer suggests the military help guard the equipment to lighten the load. The answer is a cold, flat no. The officer asks her to repeat it, clearly stunned by her bluntness. She shuts down any room for debate, stating the generator is way too dangerous for anyone else to touch. With total resolve, she orders that no one except Janavi is allowed near the generator. Silence fills the room. The men trade tense looks, shocked by the restriction. Coldly, he ends the discussion, saying he won't waste any more time on it. She accepts the challenge, telling him to please proceed with the plan. The officer displays the tactical map, tracing the route from Dover to Vladivostok, pointing out 7 critical spots where corrosion risks are too close for comfort. Crossing her arms, she adds that Siberian bandits are another real threat, sarcastically noting that fighting train robbers feels like something straight out of a Western movie. Chansok thinks over the mission's diplomacy. He reveals that out of 8 warlords contacted in Europe, only 3 replied. He concludes the other 5 are now declared enemies. A soldier, looking super tense, questions the plan. He asks how many enemies they'll face in 2 weeks, listing corrupted creatures, looters, and powerful local bosses. The room gets heavy and skepticism takes over. One member asks if the plan can even work, while another shuts it down, calling the whole operation impossible. Silence breaks when a firm voice speaks up. Staying totally calm, he tells them not to worry, trying to shake off the pessimism filling the room. She takes charge of the talk with a determined look. She guarantees that no matter what, it's personal, she'll make sure the train reaches its destination. With those promises made, the operation kicks off on schedule. All eyes turn to the Vladivostok station, where the tension rises and the freezing cold. Boarding starts under strict orders. The crew organizes the movement, demanding that second-class passengers get on the train without any hesitation. As boarding continues, the hero walks along the snow-covered platform. His footsteps echo in the icy air, catching the sharp gaze of the officers. He stops for a second and asks, sounding bored, if the train is really long enough to stretch over a kilometer all the way to first class. A voice pops up right behind Yu Chansok. The tone is heavy with meaning as she declares she hasn't forgotten the promise they made. It's Sansanga, showing up earlier than expected. Getting straight to the point, she says she'll hand over the promised elixirs once the mission wraps up. Noticing Chansok's curiosity about where she's been, she replies with disdain that she traveled in first class, where someone like him wouldn't see her. She takes a jab at Lee Sin's absence, emphasizing that the gap between them and someone world-class is a massive abyss. Impressed by Han Singa's presence, the guy notices Jia Shujong arrive and greets her, feeling the weight of how imposing they both are. With a calm smile, Jia Shujong notes Chan Seok's punctuality and asks if he's had time to check out the area around the train. He says he just got there and eyes the structure analytically, wondering if the embargo tower really put that much effort into building it. Staring at the massive entrance, he comments that the site's protection looks absolutely impenetrable. He asks if something that flashy wouldn't be an easy target, but learns that the depleted uranium armor ensures top-tier security. Staying chill, he reflects that Lee Se-yoon's presence is an extra guarantee. He trusts her skills, believing the mission's success is basically a law. And just like that, the call ends with a series of violent impacts. Small flying spears appear, triggering an explosive offensive that demands an instant reaction. A bloodied officer appears, screaming for backup. He orders every available unit to head to Car 57. Chansok rushes forward, frustrated by the urgency. He shouts that he's coming to help and dives into the fray. Corrosion creatures attack within the first 10 minutes of the trip. He barely dodges a lethal energy blast mid-air. The fight becomes exhausting as enemy hordes keep pouring in. He misses Lee Se-yoon, thinking the battle would be way easier with her. The railway is damaged and needs repairs while moving. The problem is the maintenance crew can't defend themselves against the monsters. Protecting the workers is a priority, a task Lee Se-yoon was assigned to, keeping her stuck in one spot. Annoyed, he thinks pinning down his best fighter is a mid-strategy and says he'd have punished whoever came up with that. A violent strike tears through the air, hitting the target with precision. Frustrated by how the attacks are going, he lets out a dry growl. Dang it. Winged creatures appear on the horizon. He sighs heavily, staring at the growing danger and realizing he's in for a long day. In Kavarask, the ice is stained with blood. The fighter stands before a downed monster, observing the destruction spreading across the area. Something strange catches his eye. He stops for a second and asks, in Russian, with a tone of surprise and alert, "What is that?" The tension spikes as he spots a familiar face in the snow. Frustrated, he mutters to himself in disbelief, "Why this guy again?" The sound of bones crushing cuts through the silence. A monstrous creature emerges from the shadows with massive jaws, prepping a brutal attack. The impact is violent. The surrounding structures shake, showing the force of the blow was enough to rattle the frozen landscape. Without a break, the opponent throws a punch charged with pure energy. His intent is clear. He's looking to end the resistance with one crushing blow. The environment is devastated by this power, with fragments disintegrating as the echo of destruction rings out. The tension drops with the arrival of a familiar figure. He taunts his opponent for being a nuisance and greets Lee Ha-yoon calmly. The newcomer stays chill, mentioning he came to ask for a job, but mocks the ruler of Khabarovsk for the unexpected show he witnessed upon arrival. Nikolai Baranov shows his irritation. Covered in scars, he complains that his dinner prey woke up right after he went through the trouble of knocking it out. Nikolai orders the blood to be cleaned up and mocks the Koreans' habits, accusing them of being rude just because they have plenty of food. Keeping his cool, he asks about the task, making it clear he doesn't care about the money. Cryptically, he says the lack of pay doesn't change the stakes and promises the kid will find it interesting. He lays out the plan. A train from Vladivostok is rolling through in a day or two. Nikolai brushes it off as a bad joke, pointing out the tracks were destroyed ages ago. Ignoring the doubt, he explains that people with specific mana patterns can fix broken things if they have the parts. The guy is totally confused, wondering how something can run while it's still being repaired. Brushing off the confusion, he says the operator is what matters, and the other guy demands to know who it is. And that's where it gets crazy. Hearing the name Janavi's Candy Lady leaves him completely stunned. With a confident smirk, he keeps his gaze cold while asking if the kid has a plan for the threat ahead. He takes it as an invitation, thinking the idea of hitting the train guarded by Lee Se-yoon sounds like a blast. He clarifies with disdain that Janavi's mission is protection, so his solution is just to blow the target up. Suddenly he changes his mind, deciding not to destroy it and calling his opponent a filthy subhuman. With a precise move, he shows the device he'll use to break into the car and hack the terminal inside. In a twisted tone, he asks if he can destroy the cargo after, getting him enthusiastic green light. And just like that, everything changed. He flashes a wild grin and accepts the job on the spot. Craving chaos, he reveals he wants to go further and take out every hunter right in front of Lee Seon. He loses all control, letting out a furious scream as he vows to wipe everyone out. Without wasting a second, he lunges into the fray, swinging his weapon in a lightning-fast strike. The scene leaves the hunters in total shock as they watch the supposed rookie take down hundreds alone. A metallic ring echoes as his blade hits the ground, marking the brutal end of the fight. As snow falls, Chancelloc watches the carnage with a chilling calm, indifferently noting that the situation is finally under control. He glances at his fallen guildmates in the snow, concluding with disdain that the group is exhausted and completely useless. Deciding to push on alone, he orders everyone to get up immediately, having zero patience to waste any more time. Standing firm despite their shock, he insists the mission demands total focus and no one can afford to let their guard down. With a smirk, he mocks the situation and admits that, out of everyone there, only Han Senga shows any real value. Silence reigns as he stares into the frozen expanse, suddenly hit by uncertainty about their next moves in the blizzard. And that's where it gets crazy. A blast of icy energy lights up the storm, leaving the hero alert and intrigued by what's ahead. Suspicious, he asks if it's an avalanche, but the control room quickly warns of a detected obstacle while confirming the operation is on track. Communication crackles with heavy static as Lee Seon reports her current position to the control room. In a moment of peak tension, Lee Seon commands with absolute authority, "Stop the train." An overwhelming impact shakes everything, and realizing the threat, Lee Seon coldly declares that the enemy has arrived. A devastating strike cuts through the air, creating a blinding flash that reveals the raw power of the attack. Metal groans and deforms under extreme pressure, while sparks fly everywhere from the force of the collision. Without letting up, the warrior raises his heavy blade, gathering energy for another crushing blow. The weapon descends with violence, releasing an intense glow that dominates the entire scene upon impact. A shockwave sends the fighter flying and scatters glowing fragments into the darkness, highlighting the sheer power of that hit. Facing the attack, the young woman panics, but her companion stays calm, noting that only one person in Khabarovsk is capable of such a feat. And just like that, everything changed. The approaching army belongs to Nikolai's gang, and the inevitable clash has begun. Realizing the trap and the swift assault, Lee Seon asks if they were just waiting for her arrival all along. Before she gets an answer, talismans charged with arcane energy tear through the sky, signaling an immediate magical attack. Focused, she takes charge and summons multiple talismans, ready to launch them at the enemy. As the talismans activate, a bright glow fills her eyes, and that's where it gets crazy. She's clearly shocked by what she sees. A blast of violet light and electricity consumes the area, signaling the battle has hit a critical level. Electric discharges tear through the room with full force, sealing the fate of the conflict. Amidst the chaos, a sudden flash hits Han Sang-gal, leaving her completely stunned. The radio crackles and a voice asks, worried, if something is wrong with Lee Seon, whose expression shows how serious things are. Uncertainty takes over her face, and Lee whispers, showing that things have taken an unexpected turn. A hexagonal barrier appears around the lone figure, who declares, resigned, that they've finally been sealed. A general alert rings out to all hunters, demanding immediate attention in the silence. The urgent warning confirms the nightmare. The train is under attack, and Lee Seon can't fight anymore, leaving the young man in shock. The situation is desperate, as they're facing 500 enemies, 10 times their current strength. Taking command, the young man calls his allies to hold the line, declaring that retreat is off the table. With a fixed, ruthless gaze, she redefines the mission with a short, direct order. It's time to hunt. She dashes toward the danger, leaving only an order for Han Senga to follow, while everyone watches in shock. Everyone is stunned to see the warrior jump into the abyss, facing an insane number of enemies all alone. A subordinate, under heavy pressure, protests that they can't just sacrifice the rookies in this fight. Determined, she guarantees she'll return to the front lines as soon as she handles what's necessary. A deep cut appears on her clothes, staining them red, while a cold voice warns that this won't be easy. She stares at the source of the magic, recognizes the seal, and with an authoritative look demands to know if it was her opponent's doing. Lee Ha-yoon stays calm and introduces himself as a descendant of Dongwon. With a quiet smile, he reveals they both share the lineage of Prince Yangyang. Ha-yoon flashes a smirk, pointing out they're basically 10th cousins now. He mocks them. asking if this isn't a happy family reunion in such a faraway land. That taunt gets cut off by a massive boom. A raw force makes the air vibrate with a sudden, heavy strike. Electricity crackles through the air, slamming right into the blade. Sparks fly everywhere, testing the weapon's durability. The energy surge is just too much. The blade snaps under the pressure, shattering into pieces. She stares at the shards, stunned, whispering if that really just broke. Hyun keeps his cool, claiming the seal isn't breaking anytime soon. Seeing her unarmed, he suggests the smartest move is to just give up. Calmly, he grabs the broken hilt like it's nothing. With a mocking tone, he asks why they're making such a scene over a busted sword. A sudden burst of energy flares in his hands, turning the weapon scraps into dust that fades into the air. Since that power move didn't scare them off, he clicks his tongue, clearly annoyed by their persistence. Before he can move, she appears right in front of him, wielding a high-tech blade. With a cold stare, she challenges him, asking if he even knows what he's dealing with. It's the mirror ring, a trophy Li Xiun earned after clearing a corrosion rift. It lets you register gear that instantly respawns in your hand if it gets destroyed. She scoffs at his nerve, asking if he plans to keep trying until the seal breaks, making it clear his effort is a total waste of time. Glaring at his raised shield, she drops a sharp jab, saying that with a mouth like his, things definitely won't go his way. She finishes the burn by saying he wouldn't stand a chance with the ladies, showing nothing but pure disdain for him. The fight hits a breaking point with a deafening roar. A massive shockwave shakes the blizzard, forcing him to react as chaos takes over. His sarcastic laughter stops dead. He freezes, locking his eyes on something that just caught his attention. Nikolai drops from the sky using flaming thrusters. He looks down at the troops, asking if they really think they can win with so few people. With a twisted smile and scars across his face, he demands they drop their weapons and surrender if they want to stay alive. One of the scouts recognizes him as Nikolai. Even though he's flying without mana, they explain he's using a Predator Project prototype built a decade ago to fight without magic and translate languages. The fighter explains the suit was a South Korean military prototype, scrapped shortly after because the materials were way too rare to keep making them. Shansak goes on high alert, wondering how such rare military tech ended up in the hands of the Russian faction leader. She realizes the mission now involves hunting people. Hesitation clouds her thoughts as she wonders if she can really cross that line. The leader breaks the snowy silence, calling out the group's doubt. He says since it's their first time fighting humans, anyone not ready can leave now. She decides there's no room for second-guessing. The logic is cold. Since the enemy wants them gone, there's no time for regrets. Reality sets in. There's no difference between these opponents and the monsters they faced, blurring the line between human and beast. A tense silence hangs in the air while he processes the decision, letting it echo in his mind. The fight escalates fast. With a lethal move, the blade cuts through the air, forcing the opponent into an immediate reaction. The enemy stares him down with a cold challenge, warning him to follow his purpose without letting guilt hold him back. With total detachment, he scoffs at the situation, claiming any trace of guilt will vanish in a few weeks. The snow is filled with shouts and the metallic sound of weapons clashing. The battlefield turns into a chaotic mess of intense emotions. Facing the carnage, the boy closes his eyes for a moment and firmly declares that the whole thing is repulsive. He walks alone through the aftermath, stating that someone like him feels right at home in this desolate scene. His gaze narrows with relentless determination, making it clear there's no more room for hesitation. And that's where it gets crazy. Even with better skills, the sheer number of enemies forces the group into a constant retreat. With a grim look, he realizes the pressure is too much and decides he needs a drastic move to turn the tide. The enemy appears with a cruel grin, pinning his victim down with brute force while ordering the allied commander's elimination. Recognizing him, the enemy mocks him, asking if he's the rookie from Korea. Proving his reputation preceded him, he fires back with sarcasm, asking if news of his arrival travels so fast that even Russian mercenaries are already aware. Without warning, an intense flash cuts through the air. He reacts instantly to dodge the surprise attack. The strike barely misses him, shocking the enemy with his speed. The opponent asks in disbelief if Korea really has so few talents. The clash continues as the opponent realizes the boy's gear is way too durable, not taking a single scratch. The hero's face hardens, realizing that taking down such a cunning opponent won't be a walk in the park. Shansok lunges with a lightning-fast strike, claiming things would be different if not for his life-changing experience on Tsushima Island. He lands a crushing blow, the impact echoing with overwhelming force, showing he's not holding anything back. The opponent, humiliated by being outclassed, curses in frustration, showing the desperation of someone who's lost the upper hand. Eyes locked on the target, he charges forward, convinced this strike will end the fight. The battle shifts when he realizes his enemy is holding back power, making him wonder what the guy is actually planning. Watching every move, he questions if the enemy just wanted to stop the train, or if he was trying to keep the shield generator intact. He realizes everything would be lost without Lee soon, leading to a scary thought. Did the enemy know who was on this mission all along? The situation gets messy with two key players, the Russian Alpha in a Korean uniform, and the Seal Master showing up at the perfect moment. And that's where it gets crazy. The opponent unleashes a massive attack, and as the blade cuts through the air, the hero realizes there's way more to this fight than he thought. Purple flames suddenly erupt right in front of him, and the sight is so intense, he has to wonder where that energy is coming from. Determined to finish this, he channels his focus and declares he'll end the fight, even if it means breaking his own gear. He lands a precise, ruthless strike, sending a wave of cutting energy across the field that hits the target dead on. The opponent is stunned, eyes wide with pure terror, barely managing to choke out a "you" before going silent. Enraged, the attacker charges at him with total disdain, calling him a little rat, while prepping a brutal move to crush his defense. Giving him no time to breathe, he moves like a storm, wrapped in a blue aura as he lands 16 hits with the blue trajectory. Keeping the pressure high, he focuses all his energy into one point and fires the cannon, flooding the area with a massive blast of power. The impact is so sudden the opponent can't even react, his face showing he's been completely outplayed. Noticing a crack in his suit, panic sets in, and he desperately scrambles back to catch his breath. In a final act of desperation, he tries to bargain, asking if the opponent needs to break the Candy Lady seal and offering a truce to end the fight. Ignoring the offer, the attacker rushes forward, firing a blast of pure energy that leaves his target with nowhere to run. The strike hits with pinpoint accuracy, shattering the defense and triggering a massive explosion that swallows everything in a blinding flash. Amidst the wreckage, the young man stays calm and, with a sigh of resignation, simply says, "Unfortunately." Refusing to let up, he stares down his opponent with a cold gaze, making it clear he doesn't need any help to finish this fight. Planting his feet, he makes the ground tremble as arcs of violent energy crackle around him, sealing the battle's fate. Seeing that kind of power, the group of opponents backs away, sweating bullets and looking terrified. Surrounded by arrogant thugs who think intimidation is enough, the group flaunts their fake superiority. Chansok just watches, confident and mocking, knowing she's perfectly capable of handling the situation on her own. Ignoring their arrogance, Lee focuses his energy, making the air vibrate with an intense aura as he preps for a counterattack. The silence of the tundra is shattered by the roar of a train cutting through the frozen landscape, leaving behind the traces of a battle about to begin. The snowy field is covered in tracks from a ruthless fight. The hero surveys the devastation with an indifferent look, lost in the vastness of the ice. In the blizzard, the group is surrounded by elite soldiers. The leader watches coldly as his subordinates take their positions for what comes next. The girl smiles, praising Yu Chanshok's surprising performance. She hands him a treat and he thanks her, looking a bit awkward. As his mind processes the facts, a question arises. Could the mysterious master of seals actually be a descendant of Donggun? She recalls the seal breaking. Even though the target escaped, she admits she managed to gather some valuable intel during the process. Shansok keeps a cold expression in front of the two men watching him. He examines the small object in his hands and says dryly that he finally gets the situation. He states casually that he's going to eat the item. His companions are stunned, shouting in shock, and asking if he's lost his mind. The two men, eyes wide, demand to know why he's being so reckless. They're panicking at the sheer insanity of the move. One of the characters steps in with an ironic smile, telling Chansok to hand it over if he's really got the guts to eat it. Lee Sion mocks him, asking if he wants to play house with the item while calling him a monster among hunters, leaving the guy feeling uneasy. The young man keeps his icy gaze locked on his opponent, dissecting every hidden motive behind those taunts. Out in the snow, soldiers surround the wreckage of the mysterious machine, focused on recovering that tech. Chansok realizes an alarming truth. Nikolai didn't just know the gear, he mastered tech exclusive to the Korean military. He concludes that for Nikolai to use that equipment openly, he needs backing from a powerful faction ignoring government orders. The doubt remains, either Nikolai is a high-ranking rogue agent or the Korean army itself is covering his tracks. He questions if it's safe to keep riding the same train as these soldiers, suspicious of their true intentions. Rising before them is an imposing fortress between the mountains, a strategic hub under a vast sky that contrasts with the tension. His body suddenly falters and his legs give out, overcome by an overwhelming exhaustion. Leaning against the doorframe, he's frustrated to realize he pushed his mana limits too far while reinforcing the seal. A voice from the shadows acknowledges his effort and calls him captain, praising his dedication. Facing the structure, he admits the mistake, but stays calm, saying stumbles are part of looking toward the future. The shadow captain asks since when their people bow to failure, ordering him to focus on recovery. He responds with a respectful thanks. With authority, the voice cuts through the regret, reminding him that pride must never be corrupted, no matter the situation. The elevator moves, and the number 81 glows on the panel, signaling the start of the ascent to the next destination. During the ride, he recalls Lee Ha-yoon's defeat to Kim Jae-han, and just like that, his heart feels like it's being crushed. Consumed by resentment, he regrets not figuring out the mana pattern of Yu Chen-sok's black flame in time to finish him. A chime sounds to signal that the elevator has reached the 83rd floor. Entering the room, the silence is broken by a direct call. Someone says Dr. Seo Gyun-woo's name with a weight that makes the air heavy. Dr. Seo Gyun-woo, annoyed at having his meal interrupted, chews with disdain and asks the visitor why he's being bothered. Without looking up from his work, the man asks about the progress of their task. The doctor keeps typing, promising that while the demand is high, the goal is totally doable. He points out, though, that the plan needs more funding and time. Still typing, he stresses that feasibility isn't the issue, but the schedule needs to speed up. The visitor regrets missing the chance to uncover the shield generator's secrets, but quickly brushes it off, claiming there's no reason to worry. Staying calm, he focuses on the challenge ahead. Knowing the difficulty, he reflects that while the trek through Siberia is long, he's ready to go. The vehicle struggles forward, shaking violently as it pushes through the thick snow, making a constant metallic clanking with every bump. The mood in the command center is grim. The report on the screen is devastating. 5 fighters lost and 10 wounded, meaning a third of their force is gone after the last clash. Lee stands firm, arms crossed with a serious look. Beside her, a massive weapon highlights the group's readiness in that cramped space. Assessing the damage, she takes charge and orders priority for the wounded. She instructs the team to contact Warsaw early so medical care is ready upon arrival. While coordinating support, the group analyzes the geopolitical situation. One member asks who controls Poland, getting confirmation that the territory is under the warlord Mazurka. Without wasting time, she orders them to contact the Hunter Syndicate working with Mazurka, aiming to secure their cooperation for the mission. A strategist shows concern about the task's complexity, questioning if authoritarian figures like warlords would be willing to cooperate so easily. With an icy stare, she cuts through any hesitation. She makes it clear they won't have a choice, unless they want to lose her and Janabi's support later on. The plan moves forward and the group heads to Poland, where the Hunter Guild Spray headquarters is located, a crucial step for their influence network. Their arrival on Polish soil makes an impact. Hearing the cooperation proposal coming directly from Janabi, disbelief takes over everyone present. Robert Ding, an Esprit hunter, explodes in indignation. He insults the visitors and flatly refuses to take orders from outsiders, showing the group's resistance. Tension rises when other hunters recall the request comes from the Candy Lady of Korea. Her reputation for clearing 5 rank 1 gates solo makes ignoring her request look like a huge mistake. With disdain, Robert dismisses the hunter's importance. He questions if the others really intend to risk it all just for her request, downplaying the danger. With a stern expression, he challenges the group and claims that if he needs to face any obstacle to prove his point or ensure his safety, he'll go all the way. Getting worked up, Robert insists she's nothing more than an average hunter whose survival depends solely on doing small commissions. The atmosphere gets heavy. The guy feels the weight of the group's intimidation as they stare him down with hostility, creating a tense silence while everyone waits for a reaction. And that's where it gets crazy. The tension is cut by a commotion at the entrance. Seeing the crowd blocking the way, the guy asks in disbelief why so many people are gathered there. A woman steps up, setting a firm condition. If the Candy Lady's request is denied, she's paying the penalty fee and leaving us free right now. Consumed by envy, the guy grits his teeth. He tries telling himself she's just an average hunter, nothing special. That denial fades fast, replaced by a haunting realization he can't ignore anymore. The candy lady has something unique that sets her apart. He cuts in, admitting he only made it this far thanks to Lee Cyan's foundation, which paid for his mom's surgery after a gate accident. A subordinate warns Robert about the risk. If that many employees quit at once, the company is in serious trouble. Robert feels the heat and gets annoyed. Faced with the demand to apologize and accept the terms, he curses, frustrated by the massive influence Lee Xun holds. Lee Cyan watches with a cold stare, asking with disdain if that's really the full extent of Robert's power. As the tension lingers, Lee Xun looks away, worried. Reflecting on the situation, she realizes the condition of the injured is way worse than she thought. Analyzing the rough path ahead, Lee Cyan asks if the group has the stamina to survive the 5-day trip to Warsaw. The weight of uncertainty hits her, and in a moment of vulnerability, she sighs, hoping there won't be any more unexpected delays. Suddenly, a critical alert echoes through the system. An urgent notification warns every hunter about the presence of corrosion creatures. Peace is shattered by impacts on the tracks. Bouncing slimes appear at high speed, forcing the group to face the incoming chase. As the train gets surrounded, an urgent alert rings out. The slimes are closing in and everyone needs to prep for immediate combat. The men in suits doubt the threat at first, but seeing the gravity of it, the order is clear. Get to the upper deck as fast as possible. Lee grips her weapon, frustrated to confirm the threat is real and way more dangerous than they expected. Tension hits its peak with the order to stand by. Someone interrupts the critical moment, asking in total confusion what those slimes even are. Her shocked expression reveals the truth, a corrosion monster from a Grade 1 gate in Bratska. And that's where it gets crazy. The danger level means a deadly challenge is ahead. The group questions the logic. If the Bratska is over 600 kilometers away, how are they already under attack? Scanning the area, she realizes the corrosion zone has expanded rapidly. Frustrated, she knows fighting Grade 1 creatures in these conditions is going to be brutal. The group moves toward the shadowy figures blocking their path, unsure of the real danger those creatures pose. Looking serious, she warns about the extreme danger. The creature's body temperature is near liquid nitrogen, which can freeze and shatter any gear on contact. The silence breaks as the archer readies his shot, coldly stating that what comes next is even more terrifying while he aims at the target. Without hesitation, he releases the bowstring. The arrow fires instantly, slicing through the air with lethal speed. A freezing glow marks its path, while energy spheres cut through space with a vibrant aura heading toward the impact. The attack hits the creature with full force, but no one saw that coming. It's not a finishing blow. The archer realizes part of the enemy group has mana protection, making the fight a much bigger challenge. Frustrated, Shansei concludes that mana attacks and regular arrows are useless. He reaches the worrying realization that there's no effective way to hurt the enemies. Despair grows as they notice the arrows failing. The archer warns that if they don't leave the corrosion zone immediately, the creatures will reach the train, causing a disaster. With danger rising and the situation spiraling, Lee wears a serious expression and coldly declares the mission a failure. The group stares at the bleak scene in total shock. Disbelief takes over everyone, while one of them murmurs in denial that this just can't be happening. Despite the panic, Chanzo keeps his cool. With a determined look, he weighs his next steps, while his companion watches everything apprehensively from behind. Deciding to take charge, he turns to the group and calmly asks if anyone minds him handling the situation personally. The hero gets instructions to channel mana into the arrow tip. Even with the complexity, he stays serene and, with a touch of nonchalance, decides to do things his own way. The young woman notices someone appear in her field of vision. Surprised and incredulous, she calls out to Yu Chinsilk, trying to confirm if it's really him. With a precise movement, he readies his weapon while planning his next move. Aware of the target's high magic resistance, he realizes common attacks won't work. He focuses energy into the arrow, which starts radiating intense flames. Determined, he concludes there's no other way. He needs to burn everything in his path. The flaming blade collides with the barrier, but the impact only reveals the creature's toughness, as it doesn't even flinch from the blow. The hexagonal structure of the barrier glows brightly, absorbing and dispersing all the attack's power, staying intact under pressure. Suddenly, an explosion of flames erupts over the barrier, creating a flash that consumes the entire area in a whirlwind of fire. Both fighters watch the scene in amazement. The magic resistance, once impenetrable, finally gave way and shattered. Despite the success, he ponders with caution. It would be more practical to cover the whole field with the paradox flame. But his lack of control over that power forces him to scrap the idea. Strategically, he tells his ally to wait for the black flames to fade, explaining that the fire spreads on its own. Seeing his partner's surprise, he just reaffirms that's how his ability works. The fighter catches her breath. Stunned, he dodged a strike that should have been impossible to evade. She realizes he's gotten even faster, guessing he uses some skill that erases concepts, and admits he's an unfathomable opponent. Determined to turn the tide, she lunges forward with agility, focused on one goal: breaking through his magic resistance to secure the win. The fight escalates as the opponent releases a massive wave of blue energy. The protagonist reacts instantly, channeling all his focus into his crimson blade to clash with the torrent of power. The strategy works and the barrier is sliced through. The conclusion is unanimous. The path is clear and the enemy can finally be defeated. Urgency grows as the group monitors the approaching enemies. They're warned only one target remains, and it's already near the train. The final enemy appears right in front of her. In total shock and disbelief, she freezes, unable to make a single move. Despair hits the group as they watch the creature leap, blocking the sky with an intense glow. The warning is immediate. They have to dodge, because the impact from that height will be fatal for everyone on the train. The scale of the threat leaves them feeling powerless. They consider fighting the monster but realize it would destroy their gear and crush them. Surrounded, they desperately look for a way to survive the impact. The hero grips his weapon tight, bracing for the clash. The air freezes with the icy energy radiating from the creature, making it clear this danger's bigger than anything they've faced before. Facing such a massive threat, she stays calm and notes that defeating a monster with that much power defies all logic. Even though the challenge seems impossible, he knows the answer is simple. With a precise movement, he raises his blade for the finishing blow. He unleashes a devastating flash that consumes everything, holding on to the conviction that any power, no matter how great, is just dust before the inevitability of the end. As the dust settles, the look in Lee's eyes reveals pure shock. What she just witnessed was so surreal it made the impossible feel like a reality. Silence takes over the area while Han Sanga stares at the scene, her expression a mix of surprise and reflection on the power she just witnessed. A moment of pressure hangs in the air until something hits Yu Chansok. He reacts with just an cold as liquid drips down his head. Without a care, he draws his weapon with precision and comments in a casual tone that it tastes like cola. Amidst the chaos, he reveals he likes cola candies, a detail that makes it clear, even to the skeptics, that he might be the only one capable of saving this doomed world. Under Lee Sion's command, the train cuts through Siberia, fending off corruption creatures while pushing toward Poland. The officer reports they'll stop in Warsaw for 3 days to treat the wounded and hand out supplies. Lee Sin breathes a sigh of relief, knowing the Mazurka warlords and hunters agreed to cooperate, solving a huge headache. Focused on logistics, she asks her subordinate if any other warlord signed off on the transport deal. With a stern look, she hears they haven't replied yet, but orders him to keep pushing for an answer. After the long haul and endless negotiations, the train pulls into Warsaw Central Station for a short layover. Stepping off the train, Yu Chansok looks around and mentions that Poland should be in much better shape than this. Seeing the total destruction at the station, the kid is stunned and blurts out, "What on earth is this?" The station, which was supposed to be a safe haven, is a grim scene covered in countless bodies. Yu Chansok stands frozen, staring at the horror, unable to process what he's seeing. Checking out the lack of plants and the caution tape, he wonders bitterly if people ate everything and burned the rest for warmth. He notices Lee San and the hunters don't even blink at the corpses and wonders if that coldness is normal around here. While trying to wrap his head around the chill of the place, a stranger walks up and asks, "Are you Yu Chansok?" Surprised to hear his own language, the kid listens as the man introduces himself as Joseph Polansky, a rep for Mazurka. Joseph Polansky immediately offers to guide them to their quarters, pointing toward the ruined buildings of the city. A black luxury car breaks the silence and pulls up to the group, looking completely out of place among the ruins. Watching the movement, Yu Chansok realizes the accommodations are split up based on everyone's rank. Inside the car, Joseph looks at the young man and asks point blank, "You're a freelance hunter, right?" Joseph Polansky pushes him to stay in Poland, arguing that since he has no ties in Korea, it makes total sense to work there. As Yu Chansok eyes the car, the man promises that despite the rough infrastructure, he'll have way more power in this place. Joseph Polansky points out that this luxury is true power, taking a jab at Korea, where our lead is stuck with restrictions and the pressure to keep a perfect public image. Without a hint of shame, he promises that working for them give Yu Chansok total freedom to do whatever he wants, with unlimited access to people he can treat however he likes. Facing such a rotten offer, the kid keeps a straight face and thinks, This guy, Kai just punch him. As tension fills the car, night falls over the city and the building lights flicker on under an orange sky. Yu Chan-sok walks into the apartment and shuts the door with a click, cutting off the outside world. He looks around and realizes this quality accommodation is just a cheap roadside motel. Seeing the shower in the bathroom, he breathes a sigh of relief that it isn't a total dump. Checking the supplies, he finds only paper cups and instant noodles, mocking the promise they made him. While he's checking out the place, a knock at the door breaks the silence and puts him on high alert. Opening it, he finds Ja Soo-jung with braids, giving him an enigmatic smile while looking a bit flushed. She keeps that mysterious vibe and, feeling a bit awkward, says, "It's nothing big, but, by any chance?" The girl asks to use Yu Chan-sok's shower since hers is a bit rusty. She lets out a deep sigh as she steps under the warm water. The guy tells her not to worry about using his shower, saying that's the perk of knowing each other. He mentions that in exchange he wants to ask her a few questions and she agrees. Yu Chan-sek asks why all these supplies are from Korea. Letting out a sigh, she explains it's all because of the Korean government's policy. The young man looks pretty confused by her answer. Ja Soo-jung explains that the Korean government focuses on importing basic resources from every country to control the entire supply chain. She breaks down the cycle. After stocking up Korea, the government resells the rest to other nations, mocking how those countries have to bow down to Korean terms. She adds that anyone fighting Korea loses access to hunters, since no country survives without visas and international protection, explaining that, without hunters, farming and mining stop, so nations are forced to accept Korea's absurd demands. The girl points out that food leaves Europe, gets processed in Korea, and returns as an import. She finishes by saying that those who don't align with the system get the leftovers, old cans and sprouted potatoes. Taking advantage of the bathroom chat, she asks if the neglect for humanitarian aid is really that bad. She questions if they're actually being forced to eat sprouted potatoes. The sound of a lock clicking cuts through the air as the door finally swings open. Ja Soo-jung reveals the train cargo was actually compound powder number 65, explaining that the compound is just dried, ground-up food scraps, classified by whatever organic material remains. Yu Chan-sok stays silent, locked in on her explanation. Trying to process the cruelty, she asks why they accept this when Korea could easily send quality food. Soo-jung explains that sending good food is pointless because the system is so rotten that nothing would reach those in need. Holding the ration, Yu Chan-sok asks who would even eat it if it were good, noting supplies never reach the hungry. He adds that the food just becomes profit for warlords or gets sold to buy weapons. With disdain, he shows his injured hand and says, bitter, that they live in a world where those causing such neglect never pay for it. It finally clicks for Yu Chan-sok. Now he gets what Lee Seon meant. Yu Tan-seo calls it all ridiculous, pointing to the world's destruction and a shady group keeping the chaos alive to exploit corrosion rifts. Gripping the ration pack, Yu Chan-sok decides he finally understands what stance he needs to take. Firmly, Yu Chan-seo steps toward Ja Soo-jung, who jumps as he stares her down. Under the tension, Chan-sok asks if he can ask her one thing. He wants to know where the uncooperative warlord is hiding. The scene shifts to Hamburg, Germany, where a massive military structure looms under cloudy skies, proving the hunt for the organization has only just begun. Moving fast, Yu Chan-sok hits the ground, kicking up dust and charging into the German base without a second thought. Chaos erupts across the base. Daniel Lewis, the local warlord, looking scarred and grumpy, demands to know what's happening as his men report an intruder. Daniel explains the intruder is the Korean Yu Chan-sok, who's causing havoc over the lack of cooperation with the train, while the protagonist takes down everyone in his path. Yu Chan-sok lands a heavy punch. Daniel tries to maintain his authority, threatening to report the young man to the Korean Hunter Association. Ignoring the threat, the kid delivers a precise strike that sends a soldier flying. For him, diplomacy is no longer an option. Furious and with his pride wounded, Daniel screams, "You fool! Do you want to die?" Staying calm, Yu Chan-sik leans over him and warns, if you want to take someone down, do it properly, making it clear he doesn't tolerate empty threats. Staring down his fallen opponent, the boy adds, that is the only way you will survive. Flashing back 3 hours, we see Chan-sok already hunting his targets and asking who the next warlord to refuse cooperation would be. The scene cuts to the imposing royal castle of Warsaw under a clear sky, where Yu Chan-sok has come seeking answers. Heavy footsteps echo through the marble hallway. Yu Chan-sok walks with a determination that no one can ignore. He walks in without asking and drops a short, "Excuse me," making it clear he didn't come here for the pleasantries. Inside the office, Lee Shun replies, impatient, "I am busy." Unfazed, he issues an authoritative order, "Make it quick," holding his ground in front of Yu Chan-sok. The boy gets straight to the point. The descendants of Dangun are trying to control the corrosion rifts. The woman, shocked, asks, "What?" She confronts Chan-sok. "I heard that from one of them in Tsushima. Why didn't you tell me sooner?" Yu Chan-sok takes the criticism coldly, keeping his gaze fixed while he decides how to respond. Without wasting time, the woman slides a document across the desk and remarks, "I see you have made up your mind," signaling there is no turning back. The young man says he has no intention of getting close to the others, finding them strange, and the woman agrees, satisfied with his decision. Through her earpiece, someone alerts Commander Lee Sion that Han Sang-ga has arrived. The commander looks at Yu Chan-sok and asks, "You and Han Sang-ga went on a mission in Tsushima, right?" Shin-sok reflects on how others perceive things and replies calmly, "She probably thought the same thing." Yu Chan-sok admits that what he experienced in Warsaw was so surreal he still can't believe it, even after seeing it with his own eyes. The Jumyang group representative taunts them. Is South Korea really that out of the loop on global events? Mocking their ignorance of the world stage. Han Sang-ga realizes that if she weren't a hunter, she would never know the truth about the world. And distressed, she asks if there's anything they can do. Lee Seung cuts the tension, stating that it isn't their job, no matter how unfortunate the situation might be. Yu Chan-sok ends the hesitation, reminding everyone of their heavy workload and advising the group to focus only on what's right in front of them. The guy announces he has something important to reveal, leaving everyone on edge. The Jumyang representative asks if he's going to negotiate personally with the German warlord, and the young man confirms he's sticking to his plan. Chan-sok suggests using brute force instead of trying to negotiate. She insists they need to maintain the organization's reputation, while Yu Chan-sok listens in total silence. As an independent hunter, he declares he won't make any concessions and is keeping the helmet. Yu Chan-sok confirms they'll stay in Poland and he'll handle everything himself, even if it's an extreme measure. He asks if the commander will be okay on her own and promises to finish everything before the supply drop ends. Han Sang-ga offers to help, but the guy, acting like a strict mentor, ignores her and tells her to focus on training, warning that he expects improvement. Chan-sok requests a helicopter which should arrive in 1 hour. With everything set, Yu Chan-sok says goodbye with a smile, promising to meet them again on German soil. The Kaiser warlord watches from afar and comments that the protagonist's mana isn't all that, right before an explosion rocks the helicopter. And that's where it gets crazy. The man emerges from the flames laughing, sarcastically saying there's a limit to how much mana someone can actually handle. Joseph Polanski thinks that swarming any South Korean hunter with his goons is enough to win. He's feeling confident even after the trail of destruction he left behind. But Yu Chan-sok is faster. With a wave of energy, he sends all the subordinates flying, proving that quantity doesn't beat quality. The camera zooms in on the kid, who throws down a challenge and asks how he'd react if he were just a regular hunter. Then, he tells him to make his choice. Yu Chan-sok doesn't even flinch under the pressure. He keeps it real. The conflict can end through diplomacy or a full-on brawl, no limits. Daniel Lewis, the leader of the Kaiser group, is in shock. He can't wrap his head around how Chan-sok is still moving, since he should be completely out of mana. Daniel's confusion turns into pure outrage. He screams, unable to believe a kid still has the strength to keep going. Ignoring Daniel, the mercenaries get their orders and aim their rifles, ready to fire at the boy. Daniel loses it completely. Furious, he lets out a shout, showing he's reached his limit with the kid's audacity. Yu Chan-sok doesn't give him a chance. With superhuman speed, he closes the distance and pins Daniel down, leaving the mercenary leader in total shock. While holding Daniel in a headlock, the kid forces the leader to face his defeat. He demands the final choice and leaves the mercenaries stunned, wondering how he got outplayed. Surrendered and sweating, Daniel is panicking. He stammers out a question, wanting to know how the kid will deal with the serious consequences of his actions. Yu Chan-sok gives him a cold stare and, with pure mockery, replies with just one word: consequences. The close-up on Daniel's face reveals pure terror. Sweat drips down as he realizes he's lost all control over his own fate in the face of the kid's coldness. When Daniel tries to question the consequences, Yu Chan-sok cuts him off with total disdain. "I don't care." Daniel's eyes show his psychological collapse. Fear takes over everything in the face of the kid's lethal indifference. Under pressure, Daniel tries to save his own skin and stammers, "Let's just talk," looking for a diplomatic exit. Yu Chan-sok doesn't even care. He just takes a sip of his drink, completely ignoring the plea for a truce. The tense atmosphere turns into a weird scene. The kid frowns, looks at the cup, and complains. Huh? You said this was cola, but the taste is super weird. Daniel Lewis says he grabbed it because the color looked similar and it was easy to find. Daniel, feeling a bit nostalgic, admits he hasn't had a real cola in years. Yu Chin-seok scans the crumbling base, noting the tense and lack of power, comparing this mess to what he knows back in Poland. He thinks about how this military camp started during the early days of the Corrosion Rift. But without government support, it's just a decaying eyesore. Looking around, the kid scoffs, calling the place a pathetic portrait of a country that can't even hold itself together. Shifting gears, he gets straight to the point, asking why they didn't cooperate with the train operation. Daniel Lewis, clearly frustrated, says the shield generator is the priority, claiming the UK needs it more than anything because of the Ristorante situation. Yu Chan-seok asks if Ristorante really calls the shots. And that's where it gets crazy. He learns they're one of the Big Eight, based in Naples and controlling everything from Europe to Africa. Daniel stays on edge, saying the UK's problems are nothing compared to Italy, warning that Ristorante is on a full offensive, forcing everyone to fight non-stop. Unfazed, the kid argues the generator is still experimental and they need a safe spot to collect data, cornering the mercenary on the consequences of saying no. Daniel cuts the tension, insisting this isn't the time or place for negotiations. The kid doesn't flinch, giving him a cold stare and ordering him to stop complaining and just help, says he clearly gets the gravity of the situation. Annoyed by the arrogance, Joseph snaps back that the kid isn't in any position to make demands since he has no other options. Yu Chan-seok slams his glass on the table, locking eyes with the man and asking if he really thinks he hasn't seen the other options. With brutal force, he crushes the glass into shards and says, ice cold, that's not an option I'd recommend. Blood drips from the kid's hand as the glass falls, leaving Daniel tense and shocked by the raw display of power. Trying to regain his composure, Daniel asks what kind of cooperation he wants. But Yu Chan-seok replies he's no ally or negotiator, just a matchmaker setting the stage. The man grows suspicious, asking if he's taking orders from the candy lady. But the kid denies it, saying he's just tired of all the stalling. With a sneer, Daniel Lewis says Lee Shun would never be this reckless, telling the kid to leave so he can talk to her personally. Yu Chan-seok ignores the order to leave, laughing in his face and making it clear he isn't going anywhere. Sarcastic, the kid asks if Daniel thinks he's dumb enough to walk away just because he heard a no, mocking the fact that he's here without getting anything in return. In a cynical move, he holds out a skull-patterned candy as payment for the stay, and no one saw that coming. Daniel is left completely paralyzed by the audacity. Staring at the glue bullet in his hand, he recalls fighting a slime for it and mocks how South Koreans have it way too easy. With a look of pure disillusionment, the kid drops a hard truth. In this chaotic world, nobody knows if they'll even be alive tomorrow. Keeping his gaze ice cold, he drops the authority act and asks what the guy is gonna do now. Lee Sun, looking neutral, breaks the silence and asks what his plan is once this task is finished. He reflects on the brutality of it all, concluding with disdain that after seeing the state of the world, his perspective has changed forever. With an enigmatic smile, he steps from behind the curtains and tells Daniel that whether it's a Corrosion Rift or the Great Eight, he'll soon have a reason to be grateful. Determined, he reaffirms his mission. He needs to clear every obstacle and save the world just so everyone can enjoy a real Coca-Cola again. The scene shifts to the Royal Castle Square in Warsaw, where a massive line waits, people whispering and restless. The officer in charge breaks the silence, ordering the next person in line to step up immediately. He keeps things strictly disciplined, demanding a straight line while serving thin soup and telling everyone to wait their turn without complaining. A bald man with scars on his forehead takes his soup in silence, staring at the bowl with total defeat. Fed up with everything, the man complains about the food quality to the soldiers who coldly tell him to shut up and get back in line. And that's where it gets crazy. He realizes the South Korean military didn't come to save anyone. They're just here to oppress, and they don't even blink for a threatening force. Furious and feeling betrayed, the man points his weapon at them, shouting that they're just thugs, no better than the previous government. His eyes go wide in disbelief at the soldiers' immediate, brutal reaction. He realizes he just signed his own death warrant. A shot rings out like thunder and the man hits the ground. Everyone around screams in shock at such a senseless execution. One of the hooded soldiers, completely unfazed, tells the crowd to relax. The man isn't dead, it was just a salt bullet. Without a hint of regret, the soldier lays it out, there's no extra rations, and if anyone else causes trouble, they're getting hit with more salt rounds. Once they realize it was just salt, the vibe shifts. The survivors see that if they aren't being killed, resistance is still an option. But the soldiers cut them off and order everyone out. Things hit a breaking point when a survivor, starving for 3 days, lunges for the food. Chaos erupts and a soldier calls for backup from headquarters immediately. Back at headquarters, the typing never stops. The team is pushed to the limit, handling all the paperwork in the crisis. Lee soon reports the chaos, 37 minor injuries, 8 serious ones, and they've already caught 24 fake ticket cases. She vents that being short-staffed is a total nightmare. Lee Seon gets a heads up about an urgent call from the Kaiser warlord. Sensing the gravity, she tells him to patch it through immediately. Answering the phone, she recognizes the voice and confirms a mission success. "This is Lee Seon from Janabi. You did it, Yu Chan-seok." The official news reaches the top. The Kaiser warlord accepts Janabi's proposal for cooperation. The deal is sealed and the camera pans to the Kaiser warlord HQ in Germany, a massive building left in ruins, showing the scars of war. Inside the base, a German officer eyes Li Pu-yun with suspicion and drops, "Welcome to Hamburg, but I have to say, the guy you sent is pretty strange." She turns to Daniel Lewis and gets straight to the point. "Good to see you, Daniel. Thanks for helping us with our request." Meanwhile, Yu Chan-seok stands there in silence, checking out the decaying staircase of the headquarters and thinking about what's coming next. Yu Chan-seok climbs to a high, strategic spot, keeping watch with a cold and focused gaze. While he's scouting, Han Sung-ga levitates right in front of him and asks, point blank, what he's doing there. Han Sung-ga ignores the tension and lets him know casually, "Lee Sen is looking for you." Yu Chan-seok gets the message and, staying cautious, says he's heading out. But just like that, his expression shifts. He spots something or someone that ruins his plans. The scene cuts to the horizon, where the clock tower stands out, signaling that something major is about to go down. Suddenly, a magical flash explodes from the tower, like some supernatural mechanism just got triggered. Han Sanga reacts instantly, clearly shocked by what she just saw. Without even acknowledging the girl, Yu Chan-seok launches himself into a lightning-fast move. He leaps from the tower with ease, dropping into the city below under the intense light. Landing on the ground, he checks the tracks and confirms it. His targets were definitely there. He realizes the targets used mana to mask their presence right after being spotted, leaving only faint traces of magic. Surrounded by a blue aura, Yu Chan-seok decides he's going to track them by that mana trail. The blue energy pulses hard and he locks onto the magical residue, muttering, "Their location is." Yu Chan-seok notices something weird on the ceiling and asks, intrigued, "The ceiling?" The ceiling explodes right above him, revealing a hole made by an external force. Yu Chan-seok drops into a combat stance, sword ready and blue aura flaring, waiting for the strike. Without hesitation, he delivers a precise blow charged with blue energy, repelling the attack from above with full force. Impressed, Yu Chan-seok watches the air distort. "Tearing through space, huh? New method." The opponent, wearing a straw hat, comments in surprise, "Didn't expect you to find me this fast." The guy, revealed as Sok, a descendant of Dangun, stares at Yu Chan-seok coldly and warns, "I'll have to take you out before I move on." Yu Chan-seok isn't intimidated and mocks the enemy's look. "Hanbok and a cane sword? What's with that style?" Taking a closer look at the weapon, he corrects himself. "That's not a cane sword." Yu Chan-seok realizes the danger of Sok's strike, which cuts through space itself. It's a calamus sword. Reality seems to shatter like glass. Yu Chan-seok tries to react while Sok dominates the space with lethal precision. The strike is brutal and forces Chan-seok back, letting out a groan of pain as reality warps around him. Sok lunges forward, forcing our guy into a desperate move to avoid being cut down. Amidst the chaos, Sok attacks again with a cutting aura, pushing Yu Chan-seok to use all his agility to dodge. With an explosive burst of speed that shakes the ground, Yu Chan-seok prepares to counter and stop Sok. Sok is shocked by Yu Chan-seok's bizarre agility, not getting how he's managing to dodge fatal blows. With his eyes glowing intensely, Yu Chan-seok keeps his focus and dodges every attack, leaving Sok stunned. Sok stays arrogant, not even breaking a sweat. He tells Yu Chan-seok to stop playing around and fight for real. The taunt doesn't faze him, but a sudden reveal leaves our lead frozen. "Don't tell me." A violent purple aura explodes around Sok as he preps a finishing blow. And that's where it gets good. The shock of the discovery locks Yu Chan-seok up. He stands there, paralyzed, processing what he just saw. Shaking off the hit, the kid drops the hesitation, draws his weapon, and charges to take back control. Sok watches the approach with disdain. The purple energy surges, ready to repel any attack from our lead. The pressure from Sok's aura is so heavy it feels like it's warping reality. Yu Chansok is trapped in that violent energy. Out of nowhere, Siko's body seems to split. Yu Chansikuk jumps back, shouting, "Ha! Your body split?" Confused, the lead hears Sok warn him with pure arrogance and a blue glow. "You're never gonna hit me." The sound of Sikok's boots hitting the ground seals the deal. Yu Chanshok is stunned by power that defies physics. Yu Chansyo can't believe it. His senses track the opponent, but reality here seems to follow different rules. Sok's blade cuts the air, creating a wave of destructive energy that fragments everything around the lead. Despite the pressure, Yu Chansok keeps his focus. He grips his weapon, realizing he's cracked 2 secrets of his opponent's skill. With blood on his face, the kid starts breaking down the mystery. First, he uses clones. The kid analyzes Seek's movement and adds, and when they merge, he gets faster and stronger. Second, Sok ignores him, spewing his usual arrogance. "There's nothing you can do against me." Little does he know, the lead has already figured him out. The fight hits a tense pause. The kid stares down Sok, who stands across the street, ready for his next trick. Analyzing everything, the kid notes Sok's speed spiked after the fusion. He concludes that boost is the guy's innate ability. Sok, still arrogant, points out that Yu Chansok's weakness is his phasing technique. He threatens to end the lead right now. Yu Chansok realizes no one has ever countered Sok's technique before. He smiles coldly and thinks, "Your luck just ran out." Determined, the kid stares down the space manipulator. He knows the guy couldn't have picked a worse enemy. Suddenly, Daniel Lewis shifts to another plane. With a stern look, he draws his bow, prepping a massive strike. Amidst the tension, a monstrous creature with pale skin and sharp teeth lunges in, claws swiping fast. The beast strikes with a blow that tears through space. The opponent watches in slow motion, sensing the danger. In the chaos, a soldier in tactical gear panics at the monster's resilience and yells, "How are we supposed to take these things down?" Looking up, the soldier sees the creature diving at him with insane speed, claws ready for the kill. Panic spreads. Energy blades pass through the monsters like they're ghosts. A soldier screams, "We can't even touch them." And Asura is crazy. The creatures use mana to shift into another dimension, becoming intangible. Frustrated, the armored soldier questions the obvious. How do you fight an enemy you can't even hit? Watching closely, he notices the beast only activates that defense on impact. He needs to time his strike with that opening. With zero room for error, the soldier grips his weapon. He takes a deep breath, waiting for that millisecond of vulnerability. In an intense close-up, we see Sok under the brim of his hat. The scar on his face highlights his absolute focus. Yu Chansok takes a breath and decides he's gonna recalibrate his speed to land the hit exactly when the creature is vulnerable. Sok yells with effort. His eyes widen. He's pushing the limits of reality to pull off this attack. With a loud crash, Sok slams his sword into the ground. The energy ripples out, proving the move worked. The opponent is shocked. How? At that speed, you should never have reached that position. Doubt takes over the enemy. Facing such skill, he can only think, who is this guy? Yu Chansok keeps his gaze cold and tightens his grip. He isn't giving the enemy a single second to breathe. Sok readies his blade with surgical precision, ready to end the fight. The clash of weapons creates a burst of light. Both are locked in a stalemate of pure power. Through the dust, Yu Chansok widens his eyes at the flash. Was that an explosion? As the dust settles, he spots Sok. With a bitter smirk, the kid says, "Looks like the tables have turned." His comms beep. An urgent voice commands, "Call off the pursuit, the situation is critical." Yu Chansok freezes. News of a sarin gas attack in Hamburg leaves him in total shock. The system explains the horror. Sarin is a banned weapon that shuts down the nervous system, turning everything into a nightmare. Closing his eyes, he swallows the heavy news and gives a short reply. Understood. Ignoring the biological threat, he reaffirms, "I'm on my way." He starts moving immediately. Yu Chansok takes off. He abandons the fight and sprints frantically toward the new crisis. Leaping across rooftops, he wonders, why didn't they attack Hamburg sooner? Something is off about this strategy. While dashing over the roofs, the systems confirm the army was right. Hamburg will be devastated in just 15 minutes. Yu Chansok flies over Hamburg, but time is tight. The train leaves in 5 minutes, and he must save the supplies. Strangely, the sky is calm and clear of enemies. Running, he gets word that Li Xian is holding off the enemies, focusing on one target to turn the tide. Jumping rooftops, he finally realizes the enemy's real goal but wonders what the plan behind it is. The kid gets it. They want to separate Lee Seon from the train, knowing the mission is easy without her. Watching the fight, Han Sang-ga worries as she sees Lee Seon facing an archer, which complicates everything. Seeing the attack, she recognizes it instantly. It's the archer they fought back in Tsushima. Scowling and frustrated with the whole mess, he drops a dry comment about the situation. Without wasting a second, he channels energy and strikes, creating an explosion of debris that covers everything. The dust clears and Lee Seon appears with a defiant grin, ready to face the archer again. She charges in with everything she's got, slamming her heavy sword into the ground and scattering rubble everywhere. The archer stands his ground, drawing his bow and charging it with electricity for another shot. The electric bolt slams into the defense, creating a blinding flash and a massive shockwave. As the light fades, Lee Seon looks stunned, seeing something she never expected. Without a second thought, she fires a blue light blade that forces the archer to defend immediately. Keeping the pressure on, she charges over the rubble to corner him. Lee Seon, a sinister glint in her eyes, responds by drawing her bowstring once more. Mid-fight, an ally radios in. The supplies are already on the train. Rushing, the ally yells for everyone to board the transport before they lose their chance to escape. Inside, the officer in the suit checks that everyone is on board and orders the vehicle to depart. Suddenly, an energy blast slices through the aircraft's metal, leaving a glowing trail as they flee. The officer is stunned, while his ally stares at the destruction, terrified by the sheer power of the attack. The strike tears through the interior, forcing both of them to duck to avoid getting hit. They stare at the hole in the hull, desperate as they realize the transport has been compromised. Amidst the chaos, the officer asks in horror who that archer is and notices, worried, that Lee Seon is retreating. He can't help but exclaim in disbelief that he never thought Lee Seon would lose. Paralyzed, the officer and his ally exchange looks, unable to process how things went south so fast. A metallic clang echoes as a ladder drops, opening a new path inside the aircraft. Yu Chansek appears hanging upside down, exhausted, sighing that he barely made it. The officers jump at his sudden arrival and the kid immediately asks what they're doing just standing there. An officer snaps back, nervous. Lee Seon isn't risking her life out there just for them to slack off. The ally warns that with Lee Seon separated, something big is coming, and tells everyone to head up the stairs. Led by Yu Chansok, the group blocks the hallway and silently moves to the next stage. The communicator, dead serious, orders all hunters to head straight for the shield generator. Lee Seon stands her ground, gripping her blade as dust kicks up from the impact of the blows. Watching her technique, the opponent is impressed, wondering if she's really the leader of the Dangon descendants. The archer recognizes the 10th rank's hunter's value. Shocked, he blocked his attacks with such precision. With a smirk, the opponent apologizes for ruining the group's plans. Hidden under his hood and mask, the archer stays calm and just says, "Don't worry." Surrounded by red-masked subordinates, he coldly declares their victory was guaranteed the moment they separated their opponent from the train. The sound of clank-clank marks the opponent's isolation, and that's where it gets crazy. The trap actually worked. The train keeps moving, sealing the fate of the maneuver and ensuring their success. So Yan-yu, one of the Dongguan descendants, appears out of nowhere and greets the archer. "You're here." He doesn't even blink, radioing his allies. Suspects on the bridge ahead. The archer and his red-masked man take their positions, ready for the next phase of the plan. Tension hits the limit as the archer orders everyone to get ready to fight. Seo Yeonju leaps into the battlefield, while Yu Chansok sees the wave of enemies approaching. Things get intense with masked subordinates attacking Chansok amidst the chaos on the elevated structure. In the middle of the confusion, Seo Yeonju faces the guy and says, "Nice to meet you, Yu Chansok." The boy with the sharp look fires back. "You know me." She gives an enigmatic smile and admits that despite orders to capture him alive, the situation forces her to change her mind. Seo Yeonju couldn't care less if Yu Chansok ends up a prisoner. She warns him that with the elders gone, the rules of the game have changed. With a mocking smirk, she drops the bomb that if she happens to end him by accident, it makes no difference to her. Chansok doesn't even blink at the threat and fires back with irony. The Gaegeum. Before he can finish, So Yeonju lunges forward with insane speed. Yu Chansok stays calm, calculating every single move before her attack even lands. She tries to grab him with a precise strike, making sure he doesn't get away unscathed. The impact is brutal, creating a shockwave that makes the air vibrate between them. Feeling the force of her sound waves, Chansok analyzes the technique and scoffs. If that's her full power, this is gonna be way too easy. Su Yanju snaps back, attacking with a heavy blade covered in metal spheres that slices through the air. The guy just smiles, hyped up, and drops a cryptic line. Copper bells on iron pillars, showing he isn't worried at all. Amidst the crushing energy, Seo Yanju preps her next move, eyes glowing and ready to shatter his defense. The impact is so heavy she stumbles and has to brace herself while Yu Chen-seok watches with total superiority. With one firm motion, he locks her attack down, making the whole place shake under his control. Watching the man's strange ritual, Chan-seok realizes this isn't just some dance, but a complex and dangerous technique. Suddenly, the train is flooded with an intense light. It wasn't an attack, but a buff that changed everything. Han Sang-ga watches from up close, shocked as she realizes the scale of that technique on the battlefield. A shockwave makes the masked figures shrink back. From afar, Han Sang-ga hears the blast and wonders what on earth is going on. The opponent's blade cuts Yu Chan-seok's skin. Seeing the blood, he instantly figures out who's really behind it. Ignoring the wound, he stares down his opponent with pure disdain and says, "Your way of playing is trash." His opponent, wearing a sadistic grin, mocks him. She claims he'll never block her sound and his fate is to die fighting. She insists he's got no shot, but the kid stays cool. Sinister electric energy starts leaking from his hand. If that's how it is, how about this? The challenge turns into an energy blast. The paradox flame technique erupts in a purple flash that swallows everything, highlighting the protagonist's silhouette in the chaos. Stunned, the dark-haired opponent goes into shock. She senses the danger and tries to warn Lee Ha-yoon about what's going down. The woman can't believe her eyes. The battle has completely flipped and his power is way higher than she expected. She tries to react, but realizes with dread that she's lost her voice and can't control her own body anymore. The kid's plan worked perfectly. He looks at her, now paralyzed and panicking, and whispers as satisfied as expected. Wrapped in his electric aura, Yu Chan-seok stares down his opponent and says, sharp, that she's clearly not used to the deadly silence he imposes. While she struggles to recover, Yu Chan-seok's silhouette dominates the scene, shrouded in purple electricity. The area turns into a scene of destruction, with electric discharges crossing the darkness as he takes total control. Annoyed by the kid's disappearance, the opponent calls his technique a pathetic trick and tries to track him down. She assesses the tactic. It's 2 against 1, and whoever gets hit by the purple lightning first is done for. Suddenly, she freezes. She sees Lee Ha-yoon right in front and asks, jaw dropped, "Huh? Why does Lee Ha-yoon look like that?" The dynamic shifts. Panic hits the opponent as she realizes the hunt has changed and now she's the prey. And just like that, everything changed. Lee Ha-yoon emerges from the shadows with a precise, devastating strike, sealing the opponent's fate. In a flashback, we see Lee preparing with his bellblade for the initial plan. The order was clear and left no room for errors. They had to capture Yu Chan-seok alive, no matter the cost. The opponent realizes the weight of that suicide mission. They accepted the risk, but Chan-seok's brutality blew past every prediction. Lee Ha-yoon, exhausted and tense, manifests a distorted energy and shouts an imperative, "Stop!" Halting everything. The opponent, covered in scrapes, looks at Lee Ha-yoon without understanding how her strategy fell apart so fast. Lee Ha-yoon's aura creates geometric patterns in the air. Prostrate, she can barely murmur his name before being defeated. Radiating terrifying energy, Lee Ha-yoon glares at her and demands her name, ending the standoff. A crumbling sound echoes as Lee Ha-yoon's power turns her resistance into dust. Focusing his remaining strength, Lee Ha-yoon blasts a wave of energy from his palm, forcing the environment to bend to his will. So Yanyu shows up, furious and worried, complaining that he used his seal way too early. Lee Ha-yoon replies with a steady gaze, "There was no other way. Energy still pulses, but the target is captured." Lee Seon's opponent explains his barrier was meant to trap others and isolate Lee Seon, keeping the kid under his thumb. Chan-seok appears in the middle of the chaos, crackling with electricity. Deciding it's time to take the generator back, the barrier shatters and the opponent panics, clueless as to how he pulled it off. He orders Seo Yeonju to get up so they can grab the generator and bolt. The final impact is brutal. Debris flies everywhere, and a tense silence fills the air. No one saw that coming. Lee Seon's opponent coughs in shock, muttering that Yu Chan-seok should never have been able to break his barrier. Surrounded by electricity, Yu Chan-seok looks at his enemy with disdain and keeps it real. "Who gave you permission to leave? Have you lost your mind?" The opponent is stunned. He realizes Yu Chan-seok's power is on another level and the shield is useless now. His only goal is to survive. Amidst the chaos, So Yeonju's ally tells her to run. He grits his teeth and charges with his heavy blade, trying to buy time against Yu Chansok's pressure. Yu Chansok, showing no mercy, challenges Seo Yeonju. Try to run if you've got the guts. He isn't letting anyone escape. Lee Ha-yoon returns the challenge coldly, while the blood and energy in the air seal the fate of this clash. With total authority, Lee Ha-yoon orders them to abandon the shield generator, closing the net without a hint of hesitation. Exhausted and hostile, Chansok stares down his opponent and delivers the verdict. Go ahead, try to run. The scene is pure destruction in Hamburg, with the central station covered in rubble and dust, setting the stage for the next fight. With a scarred face, the archer keeps his guard up. Down below, the masked fighter in tactical gear charges energy in his hand, ready to counter. Lee Soon, wounded and drained, is shocked by the archer. He, wrapped in electricity, ends the talk with disdain. That's enough for today. Bleeding out, Lee Se-eun hears something wild. Her opponent claims her existence proves the superiority of the Korean race. Lee Soon holds her ground, asking with pure disdain if he actually buys into that Hwanguk theory, calling it total nonsense. The Hwanguk theory is basically pseudo-history, claiming an ancient Korea ruled Eurasia 60,000 years before Christ. Using tech like submarines and phones, we learn that Dongan's followers use this fantasy to rally their forces, something even outside factions are well aware of. With red eyes glowing under his hood, the archer cuts the talk, saying you'd have to be a lunatic to believe such a baseless story. Covered in blood, Lee Soon stares at the archer in disbelief and asks, "Then why?" The archer stays cold and fires back, "Does it really matter if I believe it or not?" He takes control, saying what matters is that the faithful are on his side. And just like that, he lunges, forcing her into a desperate dodge against a spear. The archer doubles down on his fanaticism. His followers unite through faith, and according to him, faith doesn't need proof. Amidst the rubble, Lee Se-eun grips her blade tight and echoes, "You just believe." The camera zooms in on Lee Se-eun's tense expression as she processes his fanatical rhetoric. While the fight hits its breaking point, she keeps her focus, tightening her grip on the heavy blade, ready for the impact. In the desolate landscape, the girl pauses for a second to catch her breath, exhausted by the intensity of the battle. Chanso tracks the opponent and reflects with disdain on the guy's condition, doubting he'll make it far with those injuries. Suddenly, a radio call comes through. "Hunter Yu Chanchak, do you copy?" He weighs whether to chase the enemy through the ruins. The reply comes fast. They've lost contact with Lee Se-eun, and the train command needs a reset. Lee Ha-yoon's masked subordinates enter the scene. And that's where it gets crazy. They confirm that the operation and Lee Sun's fate are now in Yu Chun-sok's hands. Violence erupts as a red-masked subordinate attacks, screaming, "Die, you scumbag!" The blade slices through the air with full force, charged with lethal energy, aiming straight for the target. With lightning reflexes, the target intercepts the masked fighter's strike, dissipating the energy and keeping control of the situation. The impact cracks the floor, kicking up dust and showing off his superhuman strength. Chansok hits back hard, landing a clean punch that shatters the guy's mask and proves he's on another level. As the enemy drops, a blade floats in midair, keeping the tension at an all-time high. The kid grabs his sword hilt. A sharp click echoes, signaling he's about to end this. He delivers a precise, ruthless diagonal slash, sealing his opponent's fate right there. That devastating blow slams the enemy into the ground, kicking up dust and finishing the fight. Yu Chansok takes charge and orders everyone to get off the train immediately. Even with the Janabi group pushing to save Lee Se-eun, he stands his ground. The train doesn't stop. He's taking full responsibility. Amidst the argument, Yu Chansok makes it clear the train is carrying vital emergency supplies. With pure determination, he whispers to himself, Lee Sen has to make it back safe and sound. Suddenly, a subordinate rushes over. Chansek, looking tense, asks if Lee Sen passed away. The guy is panting, desperate to find out where she is. Relief hits when he hears the news. Lee Se-eun is back. Chansek smiles and whispers, "I knew it." Despite her injuries, Lee Se-eun shows her grit. She says she wasn't about to go out like that. The scene shifts to the hospital IV stand, showing Lee Se-eun is now focused on her recovery. At the hospital, Chansek asks if she's mad they left. She shakes her head, respecting his call as the leader. Lee Se-eun looks at him and asks, curious, why was that the first thing on his mind? Focused on her healing, Chansek admits he's been replaying every detail of the fight against the archer. Lee Se-eun looks thoughtful, admitting she feels paralyzed by the uncertainty, unable to see a clear path forward. Chansok reflects on his own performance, He admits he'd be in a worse spot if he hadn't been spared. He's questioning his limits, wondering if he's already hit his ceiling. Lee Sin eyes Yu Chan's sake with skepticism, doubting that epiphanies just happen in the blink of an eye. Holding her ground, she cuts through his pessimism with a sharp, decisive right. The mood shifts when someone asks about the supplies. The word is that everything is running smoothly. Yu Chan-sok flashes an arrogant grin, claiming he does things his way, while the icon below wonders if he's actually in control. Inside the room, Yu Chan-sok tells Lee Sin to grab the shield generator once she finishes the supply drop at the port. Lee Son, always analytical, asks if that means she'll be stuck in the UK for longer. Yu Chan-sok scoffs at the opponent's resistance, doubting the descendants of Dong-gun will give up that easily. When pressed for a plan, he reveals he's staying in the UK to train before heading back to Korea. Out of nowhere, Yu Chan-sok drops the bomb that he's challenging the refrigerator, the rank 1 rift and brats they left behind. Lee Sin is stunned, unable to believe how casually he's taking on a rank 1, remembering how much she struggled to clear one of those. He doesn't even argue. The plan is set and Han Sang-ga has already confirmed she's tagging along. Ja Soo-jung, still on medical support, insists she wants to stay and help however she can. The analysis team chimes in. The refrigerator is one of the most vulnerable rank 1 risks out there. One of Lee Sin's rivals challenges Yu Chan-sok, reminding him that rank 1 is still top tier and demanding he keep his promise to clear the corrosion rifts. Ja Soo-jung, lying down, looks at him and says that despite the trauma and brats, she hopes he keeps his edge. Yu Chan-sok lets out a mocking chuckle and says he has just one favor to ask. The camera pulls back, showing the mansion wrapped in mist, setting a heavy tone for the request that's coming. Yu Chan-sok surveys the area and, despite the distance from the generator, thinks the space is perfect for training. He tells Han Sang-ga the place is decent and ideal, since their only job is to step in if things go south. Han Sang-ga says it's fine to stay there, as long as they check in over the radio every hour. She hands over a bucket of supplies, wanting that finding these items is getting tougher by the day. Yu Chan-sok checks the vials, satisfied, and says it's more than enough. Mixing everything in a flash, the room fills with the sound of chemical reactions popping off. Han Sang-ga finds his drinking method weird. He replies, mouth full, that he has to gulp it down fast because of a nasty taste. Wiping his mouth, he feels the product kick in and says the plan is officially a go. He pulls out a carton of eggs, sarcastically claiming there's no better tool for his goal. Yu Chan-sok holds up an egg, doubling down that it's the perfect item. Channeling blue mana into the shell, it starts glowing with raw energy. As he focuses, Han Sang-ga emerges from the shadows, surrounded by a tense aura and dark droplets. She stares at the charged egg and realizes instantly, mana-infused egg. Yu Chan-sok sets 2 eggs on the table, one scrambled, one not, and challenges her to spot the difference. Blown away by his speed, she mentions how rare it is to master mana control on the first try. She notes he still needs work and tells him to practice whenever he can. He nods in agreement. Focused, Han Sang-ga asks where he's headed. He replies that he needs to go train right now. Getting serious, Yu Chan-sok asks when they're hitting real combat since playing with eggs isn't cutting it anymore. A door slams shut and Han Sang-ga tests what he learned in the first lesson. Dressed in imposing gear with a heavy blade, Lee Se-on breaks the silence. Training is now real combat. She asks if they're ready. Electricity crackles across Han Sang-ga's fingers. Lee Hyun senses the energy tensing up for the clash. The air vibrates with anticipation as strange noises echo through the facility. And that's where it gets crazy. The room reveals a bizarre sight. A blue-haired woman trapped by cables and machines crying out in pain. A close-up shows her dull eyes and the oxygen mask keeping her alive inside that metal frame. A doctor with glasses and green hair suddenly pops up asking, "Oh, you're awake." Disoriented, she asks where she is. The man gives a sadistic grin and says he moved her from the hospital to his lab. She tries to figure out why they took her, but the vibe in there is way too hostile. Without explaining a thing, he turns his back, messes with a vial, and lets the silence hang. He mocks her condition, saying it would be a total bore to just leave her at the hospital waiting for the end. She asks him coldly, "Do you want to die?" The scientist hits her with an ironic tone, telling her not to push herself too hard. He walks away and, with zero emotion, says she shouldn't be mad at him. The scientist reveals the experiment was a success and looks at her, calling her Kim Ji-hyun, waiting for a reaction. With a disturbing smile, he stares at Kim Ji-hyun and asks point blank, "Doesn't she want to get revenge?" A month goes by until we see hands opening a spherical shell. Inside, a gooey, elastic substance stretches as it's pulled apart. The stuff hits the plate with a dull thud and, in the silence, we only hear a frustrated awe. Han Senga sighs, admitting that no matter how hard she tries, she still hasn't mastered Yu Chen-sok's technique. The kid in black armor cuts the complaining, asserts his authority, and tells her to get back to training. Suddenly, Han Senga stops and looks around, surprised. Had all of that really happened already? Sensing the tension, she puts a hand on her shoulder and promises, "I'll be right back." As silence fills the room, the only thing on the table under the soft light is a plate with a fried egg. A quick breather before things get messy again. The training levels up. Now it's 2 against 1, facing Lee Siyun. The focus shifts straight to her opponent's eyes, who just drops a single word, "first." Ansanga stays focused and flashes a smile. She can feel herself getting stronger. Yu Chansek wears a confident grin. His eyes glow, ready to take control of the fight. Things get heated. Yu Chansok lunges with a quick strike, but she tracks every move perfectly, even through the rubble. Han Senga is caught off guard. He shouts in shock that he barely had time to touch the ground. She goes all out, releasing a sharp energy that shakes the area while keeping her gaze cold and serious. The tension spikes. She charges aggressively, but Yu Chansok, from above, is already in a defensive stance, ready to intercept. The impact is massive, and she widens her eyes, desperate as her weapon gets hit. "My greatsword." Yu Chansek spots the opening and yells, "Hit her, Han Senga." The plan is working. He wants to sharpen their teamwork while Han Senga appears below, surrounded by a blue aura. Yu Chansok's eyes lock onto every detail. He's controlling the battlefield with total focus. Suddenly, a blast of blue energy erupts, sending sparks and debris flying everywhere with massive power. She's stunned and frustrated. She's been disarmed and admits she didn't see that precise move coming. Keeping her composure, she acknowledges his growth over the last month, though she notes he still needs to master his weapon. Their conversation is cut short by an urgent alert from Dover, and that's where it gets crazy. The young girl realizes it's an attack from the descendants of Dangun. Dover warns that black smoke has breached the shield and they need tactical support right now. From the dust and rubble, a luxury car speeds out, heading straight into the chaos. Inside, Yu Chen-seok is sweating, asking why Han Senga is driving again, and she fires back. She's the only one with a license. The car swerves through the debris and Yu Chen-seok protests, begging for some safety while trying not to fly out of his seat. In the middle of the frantic driving, our protagonist's eyes widen in shock as he notices something. A purple-skinned mutant with pulsing veins leaps out of nowhere, flying at the car like a projectile. The monster slams into the windshield, shattering everything and leaving them both in a panic. The car loses control, spinning through the rubble while the creature keeps attacking non-stop. Amidst the chaos, the kid wonders if that was a human, but breathes a sigh of relief seeing they didn't hit anyone. Silence returns, revealing the monster lying exhausted, still tangled in the metal wires that tortured it. The creature is clearly inhuman. With that purple skin and deformed muscles, there's no way it's a person. And that's where it gets crazy. The thing flashes a sinister grin and just says, "Found you." Chansok stares, trying to process it. "Huh, wait, that guy." Yu Chansok, his eyes glowing with a purple hue, whispers Kim Ji-yeon's name while facing the threat. The creature laughs with disdain and taunts, "You'll never know." The monster punches the ground, creating a crater and sneering. "To reach a wretch like you." With his scream of hatred and anguish, the creature yells, "Just how much I had to give up." The shockwave from the beast's fury destroys everything nearby, sending debris flying through the air. The creature stops suddenly, its eyes glowing intensely, focusing on its target with cold precision. Yu Chansok braces himself, watching everything and thinking, "Right, there's no way you're going down with just that." He's baffled, not understanding how the opponent is still standing after having all her muscle strength burned away. The kid changes the plan on the fly. He tells Han Senga to head to the port while he goes to the headquarters. Lee Sun, carrying her heavy weapon, comments coldly, "That thing seems pretty annoyed with you." Lee Sun's opponent, super confident, orders them to finish the pending business right now. Things get worse, and the superior warns the car is a total loss, so Han Senga needs to get out and go on foot. The opponent mocks him, enjoying the moment while ridiculing Lee Sun for fleeing near the vehicle wreckage. Possessed by visceral rage and pulsing violet eyes, the creature warns it will hunt and tear everyone apart, starting with Yu Chansok. Keeping his cool, the boy stares at the monster with a taunting grin and compares its skills to the Incheon Batman. Enraged, the creature retorts with hatred, asking if he only knows how to joke, and revealing that a desire for revenge has consumed it since he left her crippled. Consumed by resentment, The creature shows the metal cables piercing its purple skin and swears it seeks this revenge every single day. With a twisted smile and a malicious glint in its eyes, the creature promises to make the boy suffer the exact same agony it went through. In a fit of fury, the creature lunges at Yu Chanseok, promising to tear him apart limb by limb. Anticipating the attack, Chanseok stays calm, but with a sharp gaze, he realizes things just got dangerous. At the port, Han Sang-ga falls in freefall, shocked by the devastation and unable to believe all the hunters were wiped out. As he falls in despair, an agile figure moves quickly between the containers, footsteps echoing in the silence of the industrial site. The young woman widens her eyes, feeling the adrenaline spike as debris flies around her, signaling the threat is much closer than she thought. A destructive explosion happens right in front of him, confirming the danger is real and immediate. Amidst the dust, a subordinate in a red mask appears and coldly asks if anyone survived the slaughter. The masked man stares at the girl arriving at the port and asks with superiority if she is the daughter of the key group. Surrounded by armed subordinates, the young woman realizes they don't just want to fight, but to extract an exorbitant ransom for her. Impressed by the destruction, Han Sang-ga questions how only 3 people managed to decimate the entire port on their own. Keeping her composure, Han Sang-ga mocks them, saying the term daughter implies a lady, making their approach quite strange and embarrassing. Unfazed, the masked man scoffs, saying he can call her daughter, or, in a much more offensive way, the bitch of the key group. Han Sang-ga's provocation only irritates the kidnappers more, who laugh with scorn while keeping the girl under their sights. Without beating around the bush, the kidnapper calls her an idiot and admits that, in her current state, her ransom value has dropped significantly. Feeding off the tension, the underlings rush forward, claiming they were just bored. Leaping down, one of the masked figures swings his blade, cruelly promising to have some fun with her. The scientist holds up a glowing vial, revealing it will grant 7 times the strength to that empty shell of a body. In a cold, clinical tone, he explains the high mana levels mean no respirator is needed, but there's a catch. Watching Kim Ji-young do the monitor, the scientist emphasizes that the procedure has some nasty side effects. With a chilling smile, he details the brutality, bone shattering, organs twisting, and eyes burning as if set on fire. He justifies the torture as a small price for a new body, while Kim Ji-young just stammers a shaky refusal, bringing the needle closer with disdain. The green-haired man taunts, "Are you scared?" He pressures the victim, asking if the fear of being disabled forever isn't a heavier burden than the pain he's about to cause. The man, completely devoid of empathy, gives a cruel smile and declares, "I'm giving you an opportunity." Consumed by hatred, the creature wants to return the suffering and glares at Yu Chanseok with a thirst for revenge. Regaining consciousness, the creature realizes with horror she isn't in a hospital, but in a twisted environment reflecting her dark new state. Still processing her new form, she focuses on her only goal and says, "There's only one thing I need to see." Driven by pure rage, the creature lunges at the protagonist and screams, "Your miserable corpse." Yu Chanseok reacts in shock to the interception, his eyes widening at the sudden assault. The strike is so fast the blade grazes his face, forcing him to retreat and kicking off the fight. The impact of the blade echoes and the scene dissolves into a void, marking the climax of the clash. The young man's counterattack is brutal. A flurry of punches slams into the creature, giving her no breathing room. Their exchange hits a superhuman level, shattering the surroundings with Chanseok's raw power. The sequence reaches its peak, with shockwaves rippling out from the force of the boy's fist. The fight hits its limit as our hero's fist slams into the polearm, which barely holds up under the pressure. The creature lands precise strikes, but our lead dodges every single one with insane agility. Time seems to freeze when the violet-eyed beast is caught off guard, taking a direct hit to the chest. The force sends Chanseok flying, while the creature dominates the field below with its weapon. Screaming in pain, the monster tries to process how the kid managed to hit back with that much power. Mid-air, Yu Chanseok stays locked in, deciding he's going to end this the second his feet touch the ground. A massive shockwave erupts, burying everything in a thick cloud of dust and debris. Emerging from the haze, Yu Chanseok charges forward, leaving the enemy totally confused by his next move. With expert timing, he lands on the blade, using the momentum for a devastating strike that leaves no room for a counter. The energy from the blow explodes, warping the ground as sparks and raw power consume the battlefield. The mutant is stunned to see the weapon extend so far, leaving it wide open and clueless about the power it's facing. And just like that, a new opponent steps out of the shadows with an electric weapon. catching the creature off guard. The newcomer fights with ice-cold precision and, locking eyes with Kim Ji-yeon, seems surprised by her durability. With a sharp movement, he strikes and notes that our hero's punches are hitting way harder than before. The violet-eyed creature challenges him, eager to see if his defense is as cracked as his offense. It lunges forward with a flurry of rapid strikes wrapped in a blue aura, refusing to back down. The battle reaches its peak as the dual-orbed spear Infinite Repetition activates, flooding the area with overwhelming blue energy. With his spear crackling with electricity, Yu Chansok gets ready to unleash another devastating attack. The impact of his technique sends a shockwave tearing through the area, scattering rubble everywhere. After the blast, Lee Ha-yoon appears exhausted among the ruins, still glowing with the faint aura. Bleeding and exhausted, Lee Ha-yoon keeps a fierce gaze after that superhuman effort, silence broken only by the sound of dripping blood. Desperate at his resistance, she whispers, "Is this power not enough?" At her limit, the mutant creature, eyes glowing violet and racked with agony, begs, "Kill me." Sok watches the destruction and the creature's pain, thinking, no matter how I look at it, this is just weird. He notices Kim Jae-yeon trapped in an experimental device, mana flowing instead of blood, wondering how they did it without purifying her body, which would take dozens of mages. Analyzing the fluid collected from her, the kid realizes right then, that's not human. Comparing their crude tech to the world he lived in for millennia, he concludes human knowledge of mana is pretty shallow. He mocks the people behind the experiment, comparing them to cavemen who found fire but try to cut meat with a dull side of the blade. Seeing the purple crystal, he doesn't buy the story about it being a Dangun descendant discovery. It's clearly a track planted by something unknown. Noticing a strange entity signature, he concludes this wasn't human work, and wonders if she signed some kind of contract. Seeing the entities materialize mana, Chansok realizes this is a dark and irreversible deal. He scoffs at her recklessness, comparing the pact to signing a blank check with her own life, without even knowing the danger. Without a second thought, he shatters the purple crystal on the creature's forehead, forcing an end to the manifestation. With the crystal in pieces, he watches the artificial energy sparks fade. The technical failure was irreversible. And, just like that, the crystal's destruction triggers a massive explosion that disintegrates everything nearby. Shielding himself from the glare, he reacts to the impact, caught off guard by the sheer force of the blast. Once the light fades, nothing is left. It was a total annihilation, like the space itself had been erased. He recalls methods from other worlds where sealing contracts with demons was common, concluding Kim Ji-hyun linked herself to something unimaginable. Frustrated by these demonic phenomena, he thinks, I already wiped these creatures out in another world. I won't let them show up here too. Despite the gravity of the threat, Yu Chansok stays calm and decides to deal with this later. He's still baffled, trying to figure out how his dodges and parries keep defying all logic. Han Sang-ga holds her ground, declaring with total confidence that she's taken down her opponents. Smiling serenely, she celebrates the win just like Yu Chansok predicted. The masked subordinate, wounded and groaning, is stunned to see her prepping the final blow. She blocks his attack with her blade and shouts, "Stop right there." Crackling with electricity, she strikes, surrounding her opponent in a powerful surge of green sparks. The blade lands a direct hit, and the masked guy lets out a cry as he's sent flying. She checks her work, noting the mana usage was efficient, and wonders if it was a clean finish. Chansok kills the mood, saying she overthinks things and needs to just focus on the fight. She asks how long he's been watching. He claims he just got there, and she rolls her eyes at his habit of showing up to lecture her. Ignoring the sarcasm, he gets straight to the point. Anyway, he brushes off the tension and points at the glowing structure, asking if that's the shield generator. She studies the energy output and confirms it's definitely the shield generator they were hunting for. Impressed, she explains its peak mana tech, a core that's condensed a massive amount of energy. Noticing the rest of the group showing up, she asks with a smirk if that was the meeting spot. Lee Seon appears with her blade and flames and tells everyone to relax. They're all good. Yu Chansok notes that Seon didn't hold back. She replies that against crazed mobs, being nice isn't an option. He starts reflecting, wondering how to explain Kim Ji-yeon's situation to the group. Knowing it won't be easy, he realizes if he spills everything he found out, they're gonna ask, "How did you even know that?" He decides to just be blunt. He'll say he traveled to another world, saved it, and came back to Earth as a reward. He'll tell them he couldn't find a job, so he became a hunter, fully aware that nobody is gonna believe that wild story. Thinking about how hard it is to be taken seriously, he recalls how priests in the other world faked oracles to manipulate people. He decides to do the same, twist reality, and craft his own lies to get ahead. He tells the group that during the fight against Kim Ji-yeon, black smoke surrounded him and he heard a mysterious voice. The girl immediately asks what the voice said. Shanso describes a prophecy about an approaching destruction and a sinister force hidden behind the veil of darkness. To convince the group, he invents absurd details, an entity clad in sulfur fire and a chalice of bitter wormwood. He knows it's all a lie, but the goal is to plant seeds of doubt and warn them about dangerous threats lurking nearby. Han Sang-ah is shocked by the description and asks what it means. He keeps up the act, watching her reaction closely. As his companions listen, he thinks about how in a world with gates and monsters, even his wildest lies sound like absolute truths. He reflects that the descendants of Dangun shouldn't be underestimated. To his satisfaction, Lee Se-in seems to have fallen for his story hook, line, and sinker. He stays silent, staring at the horizon, letting his lie take root in everyone's mind. Their attention is cut short by a notification. The transfer market window is opening, allowing hunters to switch guilds. Lee Se-in, always cold, questions why he brought this up now, since the transfer system is way more complex than it looks. Ignoring her question, the group looks toward the central hall, where guild representatives start trading strategic info under heavy tension. Lee Se-in presses the issue, saying this is the perfect chance to discuss the story he just made up. He keeps playing his manipulation game, knowing that if someone with Lee Se-in's influence buys the narrative, no one else will dare to question it. Lee Se-in points out that even with the market open, not everyone needs to go to the association. But she guarantees that Yoon Seong-yeon will travel to the United Kingdom just to see our protagonist. He gives a confident smirk. With the fame he's building, it won't be long before figures like Yoon Seong-yeon are begging for a meeting. Han Sung-ga gets the wrong idea and warns that romance is off the table because Yoon Seong-yeon is married. Chan-sok rolls his eyes. The interest is purely professional, focused on the transfer market. Tired of the assumptions, he shuts down the conversation with indifference, saying that's his own business. As the politics heat up, the scene shifts to the imposing Taebaek Guild headquarters, a place with authoritarian architecture that will be the center of the next moves. With the pressure rising, Yoon Seong-yeon stares at a man and says it straight. "You must have something to say." Song Si-hun, the boss of Taebaek, appears surrounded by debris floating from his psychokinesis. He glares at the young man, ready for the confrontation. Surprisingly, Yoon Seong-yeon drops to his knees, defeated, and offers a sincere, "I'm sorry." Song Si-hun is relentless. With an icy glare, he asks, "You are apologizing?" The apology doesn't fly. He shuts Yoon Seong-yeon down immediately. "No, that's not what I want." As Yoon Seong-yeon winces from the pressure, Song Si-hun coldly warns him he didn't come here for empty excuses. Breaking into a cold sweat, Yoon Seong-yeon tries to justify himself with a nervous grin. "My bad, that guy just got too famous, we didn't expect it." Keeping his composure, Song Si-hun uses his psychokinesis and asks sternly, "If we don't settle this right, what will they think of Taebaek and me, the guildmaster?" He loses his patience with the excuses and hits him with the truth. "I hate pathetic excuses." And just like that, he lunges with the brutal strike that shakes the whole place, forcing Yoon Seong-yeon to defend with everything he's got. Yoon Seong-yeon is in total shock hearing that the man has zero intention of joining Taebaek. Song Si-hun makes it clear, no matter the opponent's intent, there are no second chances in his game. As the tension peaks, a higher order comes down. Yu Chansok must be recruited by Taebaek before the transfer window closes. The mood shifts again when new guys show up. The young man asks suspiciously, "What do these guys want?" And Han Sang-ga blurts out, "Are they here?" A man with a scar on his face walks in, flanked by two intimidating subordinates, radiating authority. Inside the office, the atmosphere is heavy. Yu Chansek watches as the guy and his goons take their seats, creating an absolute standoff. Without beating around the bush, the man demands the kid keep his promise as soon as the transfer market opens. Yu Chansok analyzes the situation and sees through the charade. The documents are a front. They never wanted to negotiate for real. He confronts the guy, pointing out he knows how Taebaek works. Unlike other guilds, they have a very specific representation system. He pushes further, saying this representative is both Taebaek's strength and weakness, putting the weight of leadership on Yoon Seong-yeon's shoulders. The guy confirms it right away. Song Si-hun is the true master of Taebaek. Shanso-sok scoffs at Seong Si-hun, saying the guy isn't even active. He adds that real strength needs weight and intent, something he doesn't see in Taebaek. The taunt works. The subordinates are fuming at the audacity of questioning their leader. Unbothered, the kid drops a cold truth. Doesn't Sinkon Seun's laziness just make him a rich guy with no job? The leader gets triggered, threatening him, keep running his mouth, and he's gonna disappear for good. Shansok just smirks, thinking the Taebak leader at least knows how to keep his crew loyal. Fearless, he stares the leader down and declares the offer is rejected. The refusal is final. He shuts down the talk with a no that cuts through the air, totally ignoring Song Siu-hun's authority. He claims the opponent has no choice but to accept. As a wave of energy floods the room, Yu Chansok watches Si Chung Si-hun's explosive reaction, keeping his cool despite the heavy atmosphere, and just like that, everything changed. The room erupts in raw power, shattering everything and ending any chance of a deal. Amidst the chaos, the kid stays composed, eyes locked on his opponent, ignoring the massive crash. Tension peaks as the man lunges with a devastating strike, but Shinseki dodges, letting the impact wreck the scenery. The opponent's fist slices through the air, trying to crush any defense our guy puts up. Even under all that pressure, the kid stays ice cold, watching with a hint of disdain as the energy vibrates. The attack leaves a path of destruction, forcing Chansek to move fast while the enemy keeps hammering where he just stood. He checks the damage and mocks him. That's not a punch, that's a wrecking ball. With the floor cracking, he dodges again and adds, "Well, if you're going all out, I guess I will too." Shinsok stops mid-sentence, staring at something ahead in total shock. Out of nowhere, a crushing force hits him, making him arch his back and mutter, "Something is putting some serious pressure on me." The weight intensifies, but Chansok's eyes widen as it clicks and he exclaims, "Mana!" Feeling the weight of the mana. The kid is stunned and asks, "Since when?" Zooming in on his face, that dark look reveals he's the one using this mana to control Yu Chansok. Scanning the opponents nearby, the kid spots their lack of technique and keeps it real. These guys aren't fighters. Under the weight of the mana, he grits his teeth, determined to use every bit of his physical strength to endure that suffocating pressure. The pressure becomes unbearable, and Yu Chansok, reading the situation, drops the bomb that they aren't just regular fighters but experts at manipulating mana.